Almost 90% of women have cellulite. And guess what? It's not their fault. We don't choose cellulite, but we can choose a different way to treat it. Meet Quo, collagenase Clostridium histolyticum, AAES, the first and only FDA-approved prescription injectable for moderate to severe cellulite in the buttocks of adult women. This non-surgical treatment is injected by an aesthetic specialist in 10 minutes or less. Individual results may vary. Do not receive if you are allergic to any collagenase or ingredients in Quo or have an infection at the treatment site. May cause serious side effects, allergic reactions including anaphylaxis, and injection site bruising. Seek medical help right away for any signs of allergic hypersensitivity. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions if you have a bleeding condition or take medicine that prevents clotting. Most common side effects include bruising, pain, hardness, itching, redness, discoloration, swelling, and warmth at the injection site. Ask your doctor about all possible side effects and for product information. If you're ready to get to the bottom of your cellulite, learn more and find a specialist at Quo.com.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Yo, this is Rich Latta here. We are across the street from MSG.
NY, baby. New York City, Madison Square Garden. Hey, y'all boy, come on.
Come on. Man, Jeremy Donovan here from Keepin It Strong Style and Social Suplex. We're here with one half of the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions.
Hey, one half of Gorillas of Destiny, but one whole of Tama motherfucking Tonga. Realest of the realest. Hey, ain't nobody realer than Gorilla.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll discuss nights 8 through 12 of the Best of Super Junior World Tag League Tour, answer listener questions, and cover all the latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping a Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tee store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com, with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, how you doing, man?
I'm all right. You know what really bothers me? So ever since we started recording Keeping It Strong Style remote from separate locations, which it sounds like you're getting moved into the Donovan dojo, right?
Yeah, I got all my stuff out of storage today. Got some boxes to unpack and rearranging to do and cleaning up to do.
Nice. Well, congratulations on that. That will serve us well for wrestling watching.
Oh, yeah. Got the big TV hooked up, Xbox hooked up to it. So, yeah, we're ready to go for some watch parties.
But ever since we started doing this remote, I record off of my iPad. And do you remember those years ago when you2 decided to randomly just throw their album on everybody's, iPad and iPhone and all that?
Yeah, it was like mid 2000s or early 2010s maybe. I can't remember, but yeah, I remember that.
I don't think it was that long ago because I haven't had this thing that long. But well, actually, yeah, I guess I have like 2016. It doesn't matter. But every time I go to try to start recording or to call you, as soon as I plug in my headphones, U2 just starts blaring into my ears an unintelligible song that I've never even heard of because I've never listened to that album. Like, I refuse to. And I guess I should just delete it off the iPad, but I'm like, all right, I'll get to it later. And then I always forget to. And then every week without fail, I'm not expecting it. I go to turn on the iPad, and then like Bono's like, run. It sucks.
Yeah, we need to figure out that gimmick for Keeping It Strong Style. We just, put the podcasters randomly into people's Apple Podcasts or in their Spotify.
If that made us more money, then yes. But if it didn't long term, I'd say no, because no one wants to just have some shit put on their like device without them like knowing. Like, they definitely wouldn't listen to the show if we did that.
I know, like turn it on, it's like House of Torture. What are they talking about?
Anyway, show sucks again, but at least they didn't bring Dick Togo out there tonight. Like, what is going on? Who's Dick to go?
Oh man. Before we jump into reviewing the shows, first thing, a little announcement here, a little plug. So if you are in the Tampa Bay, St. Pete area, you need to check out the first ever Gift for the Giftless charity event extravaganza in association with the Christmas Toy Shop charity, and it's going to be at Cage Brewing. Come see live pro wrestling, drink a beer, and donate to a worthy cause. 100% of the proceeds will all go directly to the charity. Recommended donation is $10 or one gift meant for children aged 0 to 12. So Social Suplex Podcast Network is one of the many sponsors for this Gift for the Giftless event. A ton of our local wrestling friends will be wrestling on the show. Captain Aaron Nova, Eddie Torres, the OAO in the main event, Snoop Strikes, and Hunter Law against the gifted Logan Cruz and Wheezy T. AEW superstar Jay Lethal will be in the house, so should be a fun event.
You want to know what the funny thing is? That actually sounds like a card I'd be willing to go see.
I would go, but I'm going to be in Pennsylvania this weekend when that show is happening, or else I would definitely be there.
Oh, gotcha. So you pulled a Vince McMahon?
Yeah.
Vince, are you watching? I was watching, and it was awesome.
Who did he say that to?
It was that NXT UK paper.
Oh, yeah.
Takeover. And they were like chanting, Vince, are you watching? And he tweeted out, I was watching, and it was awesome. And it's like, it's very clear. Vince McMahon did not watch that shit. And he also doesn't know how to tweet. And he definitely didn't tweet out that response to those people.
Dude, no. There's some social media geek that's running his profile and tweeting out happy birthdays and, not.
It's probably that kid, Josiah, that was working over there.
Josiah?
Yeah. Wasn't that the name of him? They fired him. He was the kid that was doing all the backstage interviews next to UK.
I don't even remember what his name was.
It doesn't matter. It was some geek.
So if you're in the Tampa Bay, St. Pete area, check out the Gift for the Giftless. And also, got to plug our year-end award. So by now, you've probably already seen the bonus episode that we did this past weekend on your feeds where Josh and I broke down all the categories and nominees in our 2021 year-end awards. Make sure you get your votes in. We're about 1/3 of the way that we need to get to surpass last year's vote. So if you're listening and you haven't voted yet, go ahead and vote. bit.ly/KISSAwards21 is the link that will get you to the ballot. There's a lot of tight races right now. Match of the year, faction of the year, fighting spirit, young boy of the year, strong style fight of the year. All your votes count. Even the second and third place can swing any of these categories.
Yeah, and be sure to check out the audio. We dropped it as a bonus episode earlier this week, and I felt like we did a pretty good job. Could you imagine how long that episode would have gone if we had a guest on this year?
Yeah, it would have gone. Yeah, it would have been pretty long. But I do feel kind of sad that we didn't have Rich on. He felt like we buried him. He seemed pretty.
We did.
He's pretty sad not to be on this year. So,
hey, I would love to have Rich come back on. He just needs to watch some New Japan and then, and then come on out. But yeah, guys, definitely go. Put out your vote. Spread our the awards ballot to everywhere you can, whether it's Facebook group or Messenger or Discord, however you conversate with other people about wrestling. Be sure to get the word out about New Japan and about our awards so we can make this the most successful one ever.
Yeah, smack down your vote. Voting will close December 19th, so get those votes in. And we did have a question here about one of our categories. So this comes from Reddit user Raising Falcons. He says, I was looking at your feuds of the year list, and I was disappointed. Maybe it's because I've watched WWE for the longest time, but when I think of feuds, it's something way more personal between two wrestlers. In your list, most feuds were just really consecutive matches wrestlers had against each other. There was really no beef between them. When I think of a feud, it's more like Ocon versus Tenzan fighting over Mongolian Chop that didn't really go anywhere. Weak feud. In my opinion, Japan just has a way more subtle way of presenting feuds than the West. To me, most feuds on your list made me reflect on how a bad year it was for New Japan if those were the top feuds the company offered.
Interesting question and some interesting remarks there from Raising Falcons. I'd like to go first, and I'll just address a few of these things. So, granted, if you just looked at our list, you'd probably come to your own conclusions, but I think listening to the audio that we presented maybe gives a little bit of insight to some of our decision-making, reasoning, and that sort of thing. But I would say this. While, yes, New Japan has had a down year in terms of a myriad of things, I don't think it really affected the quality of the in-ring product, and I don't think it changed too much the quality of the feuds that occur in this company, other than the idea that sometimes there might be consecutive series of matches that are of a higher caliber than we got this year. I don't think we had a 2 or 3 match series that was, well, maybe 2, but we didn't have like a 3 match series that occurred this year that was like your Tanahashi Okada or your Omega Okada or what have you. But when you look at years past and what we've nominated, we've always nominated a variety of different types of feuds. Some that were very personal and hate-filled, like you mentioned here. Others are literally just a series of matches, which, you could say that's not a feud, but there are different types of feuds. There's personal grudge matches, heated rivalries, hate-filled, vitriol-filled, that sort of stuff. But then there are professional rivalries where there are no segments. There are very few, notable promos. It's not something that's built off of a personal vendetta. Sometimes it's just, a pride thing or a championship sort of thing. And we've seen those types of feuds, quote unquote, win in the past. Omega Okada was our feud of the year. I think the first year that we did this, these awards, maybe the first or the second year, I can't recall. But I mean, if you think about it, that's not a hate-filled feud. That's one where the two guys just went out there and were competing to be the best. And the whole story was told in the ring. And then, a couple years ago, we had Suzuki and Liger, and that was one match, not a series of matches. And it was all based on, one singles match, because obviously they had many, tag matches against one another where different angles did play out. And it was a long-term sort of situation that kind of boiled over to that one singles match. So, I mean, even the criticism here, I think, is a little unfounded. When you look at some of the ones that we listed, many of the ones on New Japan Strong weren't just a series of matches. Some of those really did have a lot of hate and a lot of build and story. Same thing with United Empire versus Tenkoji. That one we pointed out had a lot of heat, a lot of segments, a lot of angles. Not all of them were Ospreay, Shingo, or Okada, Cobb,
Right. And, New Japan is a more sports-based product, and you do have feuds in sports. There might be certain football teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and New Orleans Saints. Like, they always have, a divisional feud or rivalry, and clearly, they're not going out and, taking each other's kneecaps out and, cutting promos on each other. And, it's competitive. We want to prove we're the better team in our division, and so you get a lot of that in New Japan, guys trying to prove they're the best. And obviously there's usually a series of matches, but also there's always tons of backstage promos. There's always interviews. I feel like there's always something that kind of links when there's multiple matches that links them together. And then also, if you're not watching the backstage promos or reading or watching all the interviews, you miss some of that stuff. And also that's why I miss like a lot of the VTRs that are doing it during like the commercial break now when they played it before the match. They would kind of tie a lot of that together, and you would see like the interviews, stuff these guys are saying, and a lot of the Road to shows on the multi-man matches, there's a lot of angles or certain encounters that happen in the Road to that play into the big match that all build into the big singles matches.
Right. Like, for instance, we nominated Cobb versus Bushi. They only had one match, and I wouldn't call their feud a classically built, hate-filled, Southern-style feud. But there was definitely a heightened sense of competition between the two of them. And it was all outlined, like you mentioned, on the Road to shows. Or what was that, Kazuna Road? I can't recall.
I believe that one was Kazuna Road, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, those were essentially Road to shows, most of them. And they were all tag matches, but, the story was unfolding, like you mentioned, in the post-match or the post-show interviews and also during the tag matches. And that's why we nominate, was because they were doing so much good work during that portion of the tour that by the time we got to the one match that they had, the match was really fantastic, obviously, but, it kind of crescendoed there. And then the vendetta was over. And that was a little unique. We don't usually do, one match feuds as feud of the year, but the work they did on the Kazuna Road Tour was so good that we couldn't, help but, kind of give it the nom. But like you mentioned, if you're not watching all that stuff, and we don't expect everybody to, obviously that's kind of what this show facilitates, is filling people in. But, if you're not seeing all that stuff, you are missing some storytelling elements, and that's why it might seem one particular way when you look at those awards. I hope that clears some of that up.
Yeah, definitely. But thanks for bringing that up, Raising Falcons, and I saw that you already voted, so thank you for voting and supporting.
This man Jeremy's watching everyone's votes, taking a look who's in it, who's not.
Yeah, I'm watching the ballot, see who's coming in, see if I need to stop the count.
Vance.Barcher 87. He cast his vote.
All right. Two news items here that I think we should talk about here at the top of the show before we get into the show reviews. So there was a news report that came out of the travel restrictions being placed in Japan due to a new variant of the coronavirus being spread, and there were a lot of questions, and what does that mean for New Japan? What does that mean for the Gaijins who need to get in? And our man Obari came out and made a statement today. So New Japan, they are still expecting Will Ospreay and other foreign talent to be allowed to enter Japan for Wrestle Kingdom 16. In an interview with Tokyo Sports, NJPW President Takami Obari stated that new travel restrictions implemented in Japan due to COVID-19 Omicron variant will not apply to talent that already have visas. Under the current rules, I've heard that regular foreign wrestlers have visas to work in Japan, so they'll be treated as re-entry. This has been confirmed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Obari said a ban on new non-resident foreign nationals entering Japan went into effect today. Those who are permitted to enter the country will have to abide by the 14-day quarantine that has been in place for some time, as the plan to reduce the quarantine to 3 or 10 days has been suspended, according to the United Embassy of Japan. And in response to Obari's statement, Will Ospreay tweeted, "Shingo can't stop me. Okada can't stop me. COVID can't stop me. January 5th, 2022, I'll be there."
Oh, wow. So that's really good news. I'd heard about Ospreay being allowed to re-enter. I assumed that had more to do with him having like an actual living visa as opposed to, just a temporary working one. But it sounds, based on these statements, that everyone's gonna be able to come in that has a working visa that's a Gaijin.
Yeah, I'm expecting obviously Ospreay, I think Jay White, Cobb, Finn Juice, all those guys. We should be seeing them come Wrestle Kingdom 16 weekend.
I know at least 2 of those guys for sure will be there. I don't know about the rest. But it's really unfortunate that this Omicron is continuing. As everything has unfolded over the last 2 years, we've kept you guys informed of what we know, and just kind of kept reporting on the news. And it seems every time we get a little bit of good news, we get a little bit of down news. So this seems to be not the best news in terms of like moving forward with lifting restrictions, things like that. But hopefully people stay safe, and hopefully this, Omicron ends up not being that big a deal,
Right. And I mean, Japan's been doing a great job with vaccinations. We've seen cases go down there. So hopefully the things gets under control and, people will be able to come in for Japan, and hopefully we'll get some restrictions lifted on the crowd cheering. That's one thing that's kind of a bummer with this news. It seemed like we were so close to getting crowds to be able to cheer again. And so with this new variant, that might delay that.
But I was literally like, when this news broke, I was like, oh my God, what are they going to do for the second night? All these dudes that I wanted to compete in the Noah show, like, are not going to be able to compete. Like, what's going to happen? But this seems to be pretty good news. So at least, whatever this dome show ends up looking like and feeling like, at least these guys will be there, which I think adds a lot of value. So
yeah. And we did have a question from Hawaiian Punch VB. He said, what will Gato have to do if the foreign wrestlers can't make their way to Japan due to closed borders? If Ospreay can't make it to Wrestle Kingdom House Crew this night too, he might be able to make it back because he is a resident. So we know that it sounds like they will be able to make it back. But what do you think if these guys can't come in?
If they can't come in, then I think the company moves forward with, doing the best show that they possibly can with the domestic guys that they have. And then maybe long-term, for at least the foreseeable future, if that were to be the case, maybe really re-examine their domestic partnership situations. Obviously they're working with Noah, but like, there's a lot of talent out there and a lot of companies that could use the exposure, and they could use the talent themselves. It would really freshen and liven things up. Maybe kind of consider that,
Right. We've talked about it over and over again, kind of the over-reliance on Gaijin talent, which they are great, and it's great to have, your Jay Whites and Ospreys and all those guys coming in, but also, a steady balance of using domestic talent, especially there's a ton of freelancers in Japan that they could utilize.
Yeah, but, a lot of these companies do rely on touring as their premier model of, like, income. That's how their business is run. So I think one of the most beneficial things they could do, if that were the case, because I don't think they can they could always, bring in a Sakamoto or a Jake Lee or someone like that for a big show, obviously. But, one other idea that could be beneficial is, like, you send Sonata to All Japan for, like, a month or two. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then at that point, he's still getting work, and he's making a difference from, the bottom line over there. And, he's a guy that I think could, like, or Goto, someone like Sonata or Goto, you send them away. I think they'd help business for the other company, but it would also kind of give them a time to, like, be away, freshen up their characters. Then when they come back, they can make more of an impact. And at the same time, maybe, those companies could send over a guy or two and just do small talent exchanges like that. That's an easy way to kind of, like, keep things exciting and fresh, but, not overextend or jeopardize anybody's, like, business,
Right. We have some questions here from Rambo and Slam Pigs. So what are your thoughts on the news about renewed travel restrictions? Well, what are your thoughts on how the new travel restrictions will affect New Japan, especially with regards to Wrestle Kingdom plans?
Well, so far, I haven't heard anything about the rules as far as the attendance numbers being changed in the immediate sense. It sounds like right now they're more so just, the travel bans is kind of more the tactic that they're using. But who knows? If something bad really did break out, like, in a very short order, of course, I think things could change. But, it's the end of November. We've got, a little over 34, 35 days to go. I think it should be okay.
Yeah, I think it should be fine. And also, it seems like the guys with visas will be allowed into the country. So I think that's the main concern and the main cause, getting those guys in, especially Will Ospreay. But I think it should be good.
I wonder if someone knows more about travel in, as far as it goes with Japan and how long those visas last, because that would be my concern is, some of these guys do have visas, but how long do they last? Are they good for a quarter, 6 months, a year, several years? What if those come due and we're still in this hellhole, and what if they can't get renewed or something like that? Then what happens?
Right. I know at the beginning of the pandemic, they had extended like an extension on the visas. But yeah, I don't know how long that extension went. I don't know what the current due date of the visas are. So yeah, that's a good point you make, and who knows what that situation looks like. He also asked, do you believe the travel difficulties will eventually cause one or more foreign stars to choose to sign elsewhere? Jay White?
I mean, you could say that were the case if this sort of thing were to happen, but but I think only because it's tied to some of the other contentious views that some of these foreign talent have as far as how COVID was handled this past year. We don't have to have a whole discussion about the Gaijin unrest or the mass exodus at the beginning of 2022. But, if some of these wrestlers like Jay White, Juice Robinson, Dave Finlay, guys like that, if their contracts come up, I mean, that could be part of the reason why they left for sure. But I don't think it'd be the only one. I mean, I don't want to speak for them. I don't know what their individual reasonings would be, but there could be a lot of factors at play if that were the case, money, other opportunities, that sort of thing.
Right. I'm not sure how much this specific incident will take part. I'm sure some of them probably already had their minds made up based off of the story that broke earlier in the year and them, not coming in for G1. I'm sure this doesn't help, and I'm sure with the quarantine being back to 14 days, I know that was one of the reported issues that they didn't want to do the 14-day quarantine at the dojo and all this stuff. So,
but I mean, think about it though. If you are someone who's tired of the travel restrictions and all that, and you're one of these guys, and you're also thinking like, who knows what tomorrow holds? What if things get bad and I can't get there, and then what happens? So that could be a thought that could potentially be going through their mind. And then when you're weighing your opportunities, and you've got WWE and AEW and Impact and yada yada, whoever, like right here domestically, it kind of depends on your priorities, that sort of thing,
Right. So moving on to the next news story here. KENTA is set to make his return to Pro Wrestling Noah on January 1st. It was announced during the Noah the Best 2021 event that KENTA, obviously who currently wrestles for New Japan Pro Wrestling, will be a part of Noah's event at Budokan Hall on January 1st. It wasn't specified who he will face. So question from Wyatt Punch BV. It was announced that KENTA will be making his return to Noah on January 1st at the Budokan. Who would you like to see him face?
I don't know. The thing is, any names I throw out, I don't even know if it would be feasible for him to face them, because I don't know what's going on in the company besides a few of the major things,
Mm-hmm.
So, but like the one name I could think of that maybe Nakajima again would be cool.
Yeah, that was the first name I thought about.
Yeah,
he's the champion. He's a champion right now, right?
He's champion. Yeah. But who knows? Well, yeah, because he's fighting Go, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I could maybe even see him and Marufuji tagging together in like a special dream tag team situation against someone else. I don't know.
Yeah, they could do some kind of match that will lead to an angle for January 8th, Wrestle Kingdom.
Let him fight Masakatsu Funaki. I don't know.
Next question from Cactus Mac. Would the likes of Sonata, Goto, and Kenta and Evil be better off if they move to Noah rather than stay in New Japan and be mid-card for life?
Wow. That's 4 very different names in different, stages of their career as far as what the future holds. I mean, I think it'd be hard to say that they're all mid-card for life. I don't know how much money Sonata, Goto, and Kenta and Evil all make. But I gotta imagine that, wrestling is a job. It's a trade. And so it's, sometimes, yes, of course, you want to be utilized to a certain extent. You believe that you're capable of being the top guy or the top draw or whatever. But, every promotion, every wrestling business has different needs, and not everybody can be the top guy. There has to be guys in the middle of the card. There has to be guys that are grizzled vests. There has to be guys that, do the job. Like, that's just part of what wrestling is. And I mean, sometimes it's better to be a top comedy act in the biggest Japanese company versus the top guy in one of the smaller, like, pro indies, especially if you're not making the same kind of money. So I guess that would be up to Sonata, Goto, Kenta, and Evil to decide for themselves. I couldn't say for sure.
Right. I think the big factor is going to be money. Sure, they could go to Noah or All Japan or wherever and become the champ, be the top guy, but are those companies going to pay as much as New Japan's paying right now? I don't think so.
Also, it's a far stretch to even say that because, Sonata, Goto, and Evil have had varying different degrees of exposure or success in New Japan. Obviously, Kenta's a little different because he's sort of got like a legendary status name already. But could I see Sonata, Goto, and Evil being guys that could go to other companies, win titles, and have success? Yes. But to presume that they would definitely be a top guy in, like, say, Noah or I'm just throwing it, or like a Dragon Gate or someplace like that. I don't know if that's the case. A lot of these guys are older. I mean, why would those companies, and if, who knows, if like they weren't really affecting business long term, unless those companies were really marks for like New Japan as a whole, I don't know that they would even necessarily be the top guy. That's presumptuous to think that that's the case because there is a lot of top talent in other companies,
Right. It'd be a TNA-ism if you just brought these guys in and have them beat all your homegrown top guys.
Yeah, and it doesn't always work. I mean, sometimes it does, but it doesn't always work like that in Japan.
Right. Next question here from Dom Homie 101. Any thoughts on Kenta returning to his Noah roots? Can you guys explain why Noah holds heat towards Taiji Ishimori and Yoshinobu Kanemaru?
Yeah, as far as Noah or Kenta returning to his Noah roots, I don't necessarily. I mean, I think it's a cool thing. I think it's really cool just from the standpoint that, like, the last time he was in Noah, he was doing a special, appearance while he was working for WWE with 205 Live as Hideo Itami. So it is kind of cool that he came back to Japan and he's in the top company, he's a top star there, and then he's sort of able to make his return as Kenta, proper. So that's cool. Plus, with the fact that Wrestle Kingdom is the 4th and the 5th, and then they're having the 3rd day, the amalgamated show on the 8th, the idea that they're in Budokan?
Yeah, on the 1st.
Yeah, a big Budokan show on the 1st, right after the Japanese New Year. Like, that's really cool. And then the idea that Kenta will show up on that show, we don't really know in what capacity, but the potential for some sort of bolstering of the show on the 8th and interaction between the guys from both companies, because Kenta's there, but that doesn't mean he's for sure the only guy that will be there. Who knows what other elements could appear, and like what if some of the Noah guys show up on the 4th or the 5th in some capacity. So like that's just all really exciting to me. As far as Ishimori and Kanemaru go, these are two guys who kind of broke tradition in leaving for New Japan. They were both, mainstay junior guys in Noah who had like a long and lengthy relationship with the company, and in, to a certain extent kind of were like homegrown talent. And in Japan, not always, but oftentimes if you spent a large portion of your career in one company and they really invested in you, especially if you went through their dojo system. I know Ishimori didn't necessarily, to some extent probably, but I think Kanemaru might have. But if you trained extensively in a company and went through their system and they invest in you, it's kind of expected that you stay there for life, as crazy as that sounds. And then the idea of guys jumping from company to company, it's kind of rare. It has happened in the past, but it's not, really seen favorably. And in both cases, these guys left for greener pastures. But I know for sure with Ishimori, the way he did it was frowned upon because he kind of told them he wasn't going to New Japan.
Right, because he was doing Impact at the time. He's like, I'm going to go to Impact, do some more stuff in the States. And then next thing you know, Bone Soldier has arrived in New Japan.
Right, yeah. So he said he was going to the States. I think he showed up for a couple indie shots, and then suddenly he's in New Japan. So they kind of felt like he dealt with them in a dishonorable way. I don't know the story. Huh?
Said finessed them.
Yeah, he finessed him. And I don't know the full story, but I think Kanemaru may have done something similar. I believe Kanemaru, if I recall, Kanemaru kind of got brought into Suzuki-gun, but then jumped with Suzuki-gun or something like that. I'd have to take a look at it, but I don't know the full history on that one. But yeah, both guys apparently are, persona non grata within the company because of that.
Right, and even back in the day, I don't know if it's still this way, but officials from companies, they don't want wrestlers talking to people from the other company, like in public at least. It was very like you stuck with your crew, like your promotion.
Yeah, you got to keep kayfabe. But the thing with Kenta is he did leave too, but like when he left, he was very forthright about it. There was a press conference. It was all made very public, and also it was going to WWE. So I mean, anytime someone goes to WWE, it's seen as like, oh my God, they're going,
they're going to the promised land.
Yeah, they're going to the majors, that sort of thing. So.
Right, and they did that whole like contract signing with Hulk Hogan and him in Japan, and they made a big deal about it. So
yeah.
Yeah, and so Kenta returning should be cool. I heard there were fans that were crying in the crowd when the announcement happened, so clearly he means a lot to them. So,
who, Kenta?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Kenta, he's a big star, man.
Yeah,
he's a big deal.
All right, let's shift gears here into World Tag League and Best of the Super Juniors. So first, just pointing out the Young Lions. So. Series of draws here. So on night 4, Fujita and Nakashima went to a draw of World Tag League. Night 5 of Super Juniors, Fujita and Oi went to a draw. Night 6 of Super Juniors, Oiwa and Nakashima went to a draw. Night 5 of Tag League, Fujita and Nakashima went to a draw. Night 7 of Super Juniors, Fujita and Oi went to a draw. And then night 6 of Tag League, Oiwa and Nakashima also went to a draw. Young boy, thoughts on how these guys have been doing in the quote-unquote C block of these tournaments?
Yeah, all these guys have been doing pretty great. I don't have a lot of, groundbreaking insight, but the one thing I will say, while I think all three guys are good to very good, I just tend to prefer the matches when it's Fujita and Oiwa a lot more than when Yuto Nakashima is involved. And he's good, like I said, but they they have a really good chemistry. Oiwa and Fujita do. Mm-hmm. And we saw that on display as soon as they debuted, but their matches seem to just be more kind of physical and hate filled. They feel more authentic. Whereas, I can always again, he just started, but I can always tell when Nakashima's wrestling that he's wrestling, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So that's the main thing for me.
Yeah, one thing that I've noticed, we've kind of pointed out during the early Oiwa and Fujita matches, but these guys are just using more submissions than a typical Young Lion would use, or they're doing more arm bars and Kimuras, especially when they're wrestling against Nakashima due to his arm injury, and they're just doing more submission based, a little bit more grappling than I think we normally see with Young Lions. Nakashima has been impressing me, and he did a guillotine on today's show against Oiwa, which I don't think I've ever really seen Young Lions doing a guillotine at all, and so
it's rare. Yeah,
these guys are really kind of pushing the envelope here.
Yeah, quite a bit. The other thing too is I've noticed that they kind of abandoned some of the earlier storytelling as far as the outcomes of the matches. They were kind of telling a story of Nakashima having issues with his arm and then him kind of overcoming that. That's all kind of gone away. And now we're getting to the point where every night one of these guys is putting the other one either in a double Boston Crab or a single crab, and it's going to the time limit. Mm-hmm. And even though they have their man in trouble in that moment, and there've been a few times where it's felt kind of close, especially lately, that someone might tap, it's becoming more and more clear that they're not as easily able to push each other to the limit with just 10 minutes. They're going to need more time, obviously, to get a winner here, but they're definitely going to need more time now because the guys seem to be more conditioned to go past 10 minutes, if that makes sense. They're in the Boston Crab and they're stuck there, but it just kind of feels like we've seen that in the match. They might get out, and then who knows? It's anybody's game at that point.
Right, and similar we see with pretty much every Young Lion, especially we saw with Tsuji and Yamura with their series of draws, that, that kept pushing that 10-minute break. And then they finally, when they got that extension of time limits, then started seeing more finishes between these guys.
Yeah. So, and I mean, that's the big question is any single one of these guys going to be able to get a single win on anyone else, or are we just going to see all of them go, the 10-minute time limit draw? In some of my more like optimistic days, I used to think like, oh, maybe at the end of it, since no one's gotten a win, they'll do like a triple threat, special one-time triple threat, give them, extra time. But I now know they're just never going to do anything like that. It's just going to play out however it's going to play out. They're probably going to go the entire tour with everybody just getting draws for 10 minutes. And then, maybe after Wrestle Kingdom, they'll give them more time to start getting wins on the New Beginning Tour or whatever.
Yeah. So we had a question here from Puro Poppy. He says, has the booking of Best Super Juniors or any of the participants in particular surprised you at all? Besides Show, it doesn't feel like anyone is being elevated, and we just have a big pack of guys hovering in the middle. Robbie Eagles in particular feels like he's right back where he was in last year's tournament besides his title run this year. I'd ask the same about World Tag League, but I ain't watching that. Glad I got you guys to do it for me.
Great question. So yeah, I am surprised by some of the booking, but by now, and you and I haven't talked about this off the air, but by now I think it's pretty apparent exactly what's going on in this tournament. And if you can see exactly what's going on in this tournament and you have experience watching these tournaments and knowing how the point structures work, I'm not really that surprised by losses that Hiromu's taken or ELP or Desperado or any of these guys that you would kind of favor, because it has to happen mathematically for the top two guys. They're going to be in the finals. And I'm pretty sure of who those are at this point. We can, discuss that a little bit here. But yeah, I'm not that surprised at all.
Yeah, I think the one surprising thing for me is just how well Kanemaru has been doing thus far in the tournament. We'll talk about him in a second, but he's won a lot of matches, and they've been doing a lot of interesting angles of him to get him those wins. And so him being towards the top of the block has been very interesting so far.
Yeah, but, he's going to start eating some losses here going into the tail end. But I think he has kind of played that grizzled vet spoiler. It's just he's doing the spoiling earlier than we are used to, as opposed to like the last few nights,
Yeah. And then
that's my feeling on it.
Yeah, and then a guy like Master Wato, who I felt did better in last year's tournament point-wise at this point, and he's at the bottom of the block here.
I would also argue, I don't think Robbie Eagles feels like he's right back where he was in last year's tournament. I do think he's not as elevated as one would hope after having a pretty successful IWGP junior title run, because he's not headlining very many of the shows. But I do think that he's getting a lot more time. I think that the crowd responds to him a lot more. And I think he's being booked to win more matches than he ever did in the past. So he is elevated to some degree. I would disagree that he feels exactly in the same place.
Yeah, I feel like beating Desperado and Hiromu in the past year really helped credibility for him in this tournament. And when he does beat people, the fans are like, oh, behind him. They saw him beat Despi and Hiromu this year. I feel like his matches have a little bit more meaning to them this year.
Yeah, even that aspect of it. In the past, he would beat someone and it felt like it was a huge upset. But now it is believable that Robbie Eagles could beat anyone in this tournament on any night. And I know that kind of makes him a glorified spoiler to some extent. He'll probably end with a really good, point total overall. But I mean, it didn't feel that way last year. It felt like anytime he beat someone, it's like, oh shit, Robbie Eagles won.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at the standings here, and we'll talk about each guy and go over the results that they've had this past week. So we'll start at the top of the block here for Super Juniors with Sho, who has 12 points. He is 6-1 on night 5 of Super Juniors. He was defeated by Yoshinobu Kanemaru, 8 minutes, 8 seconds. On night 6, he defeated Doki by referee's decision, 11 minutes, 37 seconds. And then on night 7, he defeated Master Wato also by referee's decision.
Yeah, so Sho, his matches aren't the best. But I kind of get it because it's the story they're telling, And I don't want this to sound like it's me defending it, because I'd obviously much rather have the show that we've gotten in past year Super Juniors, so let that be said. But it's not like the tournament is chock full of a ton of shenanigans and cheating. I mean, there is some, but it's almost all primarily focused on Show. He's the one guy that's kind of got, his heat, segment basically picked out for the end of his matches. And again, I know this year's been full of crap like that, so that might also add to the frustration. But they're clearly trying to do something new with the guy, and it could be a lot worse. We could be getting garrote wires. We could be getting lights going out. We could be getting, 3, 4, 5 ref bumps in a match. So I'm a little thankful that these aren't the worst matches possible, because it felt in the past like sometimes Evil and Jay White during G1 just wanted to actively have the worst matches they possibly could. And I feel like Show's at least kind of smart enough to know, hey, one day I'm going to still have to go out there and put on bangers. So let's at least let people know I can still go to some level.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been down on Show, and I feel like some of the cheating, even in the Master Wato match, you have to cheat to beat Master Wato. There are certain guys I feel like he shouldn't have to. Also, you want to do the poke in the eye, back rake, and stuff like that. But to do the whole ref bumping and pulling the wrench out for some of these guys, I feel it's kind of a lot, especially on shows when you have ELP doing the dick punching, you have Amaro doing the jump zone and hitting people with the bottle. You have some of these other guys, some of these Desperado. You have some of these other guys cheating, Ishimori, and so with Show doing it as well, and then taking the ref down, and it's being kind of egregious. I'm just kind of down on it right now.
Right. I do agree with you. And I did make mention that some people are cheating, but if you think about it, it's to a much lesser extent than what we're seeing with him, because with him, it's a very distinct pattern. Exactly. I mean, he's done some other stuff, but the other guy's going to almost win. He's going to find a way out of it. There's going to be a ref bump. He's going to hit him with the wrench, and then he's going to put him in his, whatever that
snake bite
submission, the snake bite. Correct. And so it's that's his deal. That's what he's doing on this tour. We've seen, other archetypes of this in the past, whereas those other guys, yeah, they might cheat here and there because they're heels, but they're not doing it consistently the same way each match. Some of them aren't even doing it in every match. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think, look, we've seen in the past, for a new gimmick, they're trying to establish the gimmick. They're going to different towns. They want everybody to understand, all right, this is the way Show cheats, is how his matches are laid out. So they're trying to kind of drive the point home that this is how Show wrestles now. And I do get that, but...
Well, think about this, too. Is in the past, I never liked this type of thing. But it didn't always feel... as necessary with some of those other guys you mentioned as it might be with Show. Because think about Show. He's a guy that's beloved. Roppongi 3K, they're a really hot babyface sort of act. And, the last thing you want is him going out there and having matches where he is getting babyface reactions.
Yeah,
at least not
getting
now.
over, yeah.
They really do need to get him over as a heel. And I know the argument against that is well, ELP has exciting matches. It's well, in the beginning, he still was doing more of the shitty cheating than he was of the flipping, Right. There's always a gestation period where they have to get the guy over as a heel. And that's what I meant when I said that it's pretty clear they're doing something with him. They're trying to get him over as a heel so that people can stop loving him for now. And then at some point, you can reintroduce some of those exciting elements, maybe let's say if he wins here and he goes to the Tokyo Dome, then maybe you let him really go out there, do what he can do.
Well, they're doing a great job, because I'm definitely not liking him right now.
Well, I don't like him either. I mean, these aren't my favorite matches to watch by any means, but I get it is what I'm saying.
Yeah. We had a question here from Reddit user Pussy Destroyer 83619. Says, I am so done with the House of Torture's cheating tactics. It's so stupid. They grab, push, and throw the referee without any sort of repercussions. Even in pro wrestling, the referee should be respected, and it only enhances when a wrestler manages to get one over on the ref without him noticing. In NJPW, they literally knock the ref out themselves, and the ref does nothing. Just counts to fall when he comes back to it. It's so stupid. Everyone looks stupid. The ref looks like the biggest tool in the world. The babyface looks like such a twerp, too. Evil/Show is going to cheat. Have a stablemate accompany you. In one of the LIJ vs. Show matches, can't remember who it was, Dick Togo came out and helped Show pick up the win, and Shingo Takagi was in commentary just looking like, what the fuck? Get in there. Then when House of Torture wins and all gang up on whoever is it, then Shingo decides to go in for the save. I want to rip my eyes out. Everyone looks so stupid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of that, okay, so I do agree. But there's a lot of things in wrestling that I wish were a certain way. I mean, if I had my way, wrestling would probably be a very, very, very different presentation just across the board. It probably wouldn't be that far off from what blood sport is. So, I mean, we could do that all day, but I do agree that there needs to be some level of respect for the referees. And, New Japan is, they've got a reputation for just being way, way, way over the top when it comes to the way that they allow the heels to bump the refs, distract the refs, and everything like that. But I do think there's a fine line between an acceptable level of that versus what he's talking about, where they literally grab the ref and do something to them. I think once any heel purposefully attacks a ref or bumps them like that, that should be automatic DQ. And I do think that's a little different than the inadvertent bump. Even if it's a quote unquote inadvertent bump, one that's on purpose, but it's still, there's some doubt as to what the intention was. But if they just grab the ref and throw them or something, that's DQ. I can't think of any instances recently where one did that specifically, though. Can you?
I feel like in some of the How to Torture stuff, they will grab the ref and throw him down or push him out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, that should be grounds for disqualification, literally, because you're kind of insulting the intelligence of everybody, the fans.
Right. And we've seen, I can't remember which match, but I know Dick Togo's pulled referees out on 3 counts.
Not a big fan of that either. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that one, the thing though, is with that, and I'm being the devil's advocate today. The referee didn't see who grabbed them, and you know how frail they are. If they get thrown to the ground,
they're done.
So I mean, they don't necessarily know exactly who might have attacked them. I mean, there's a little bit of wiggle room there, but it would be really great if pro wrestling had, instant replays or maybe a staff of officials that maybe were in the back that could step in. I don't know.
Yeah. So what you're saying is we need a GM for New Japan.
No, I'm saying it should be like a football game. If one referee gets knocked out in a football game, it's not like there's a bunch of other dudes standing around that could help.
Right. Yeah. For me, I understand the inadvertent ref bump. That's just a pro wrestling trope that will live on for the rest of eternity. But once they are, like you mentioned, it's intentionally them grabbing the ref, pulling the ref out, pushing the ref, knocking the ref down, slapping the ref, whatever it is, putting your hand on the ref, that should be automatic DQ. And I do think I agree with Pussy Destroyer here that once they do that, and then you have the stablemate just kind of sitting there, it does make them look stupid.
The other thing he mentioned, he talked about if there's a big faction that cheats and for a fact that they're going to do certain things, why don't you have another member of your stable come out with you? We've kind of talked about that in certain cases, but there are kayfabe, for instance with LIJ, they have a kayfabe reasoning why they don't come out and interfere in each other's matches, because they have this idea that they're all supposed to stand on their own and sort of not need the help or support of their stablemates,
Right.
And I guess it depends on what the motivations and the philosophy of different teams are, because they're not all the same.
Right, and that's kind of, we've seen that with LIJ, like you mentioned. Yeah, that's kind of been their thing. The very, very last straw will come out to help you, but otherwise, you're on your own, kid.
Yeah.
Chaos, we know they don't support anybody unless it's Goto, Ishii, and Yoshihashi getting each other's backs. They never are together.
Right. So yeah. The other thing too is sometimes I don't know. I don't know what the kayfabe rules are. Very often in New Japan, we're mostly seeing guys be accompanied by their official seconds. And I do think there are occasions where people get followed out by like their tag team partner or stablemate, but that's a little bit rarer. We're not seeing as much of that in New Japan today, and we're certainly not seeing the whole stable come out together like we did with Bull Club days anymore. That's kind of been done with. So
right. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up for show. I would say I did enjoy the Kanemaru match, because Kanemaru just came out with a jump zone, wasn't dealing with any his cheating, and got this man out of here in 8 minutes, and that was a pretty surprising upset win there.
Yeah, I kind of popped when Kanemaru beat this man in 8 minutes. I was like, fucking jump zone, yes.
So let's move on to the next guy here, El Desperado, who has 9 points, 4 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw. So on night 5, Despi defeated Doki, 15 minutes, 8 seconds. On night 6, he defeated Robbie Eagles, 18 minutes and 25 seconds. And then on night 7, he defeated his tag team partner, Yoshinabu Kanemaru, 15 minutes and 10 seconds.
Yeah, so Desperado kind of bouncing back from an early kind of deficit and, racked up 3 in a row here against 2 of his stablemates. So there's that. Some people were calling, I heard rumors that the Fix might have been in on that one. I don't know. But in all seriousness, I think Desperado has been having a pretty strong tournament. I wouldn't say like the greatest tournament in terms of match quality, but then again, I wouldn't say that about anybody in this tournament.
Right.
But I think he's doing a good job in the main events and semi-main events. And for whatever reason, he just feels like a guy that's really come into his own as a singles wrestler and a character. He's still not at like the Doki level where Doki's out there killing himself every night, trying not to go back, but he's not too far off. I think Desperado is doing a pretty good job here, and I've enjoyed all these matches.
Yeah, and also we've seen like an increase in the leg work for him, setting up that numero dos submission hold that he uses, the Brock lock, and so up in the work on that. And yeah, I think he's just, like you mentioned, he came into his own as a singles wrestler. Like he has kind of his signature kind of stretch of moves. He kind of has all his mannerisms. I think the crowds are more invested into those matches as well, and I think he is one of the better performers in the tournament across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at this point, obviously, he's the champion. He's not going to win the tournament. He could play a factor into the finals, and I see him getting a lot of wins from here on out. He'll probably take one more loss just to kind of make sure he doesn't make it to the finals, unless one of the people that's beaten him, ends up having a tiebreaker over him between here and now. But,
right.
Desperado, he's still got some big matches, some big main events in front of him. And, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty optimistic what the rest of the tournament looks like for him.
Yeah, I would say out of this stretch, the Eagles match was probably my favorite out of these 3 that he had this past week, kind of following up from the series that they've had this year. I think they've built some really good chemistry. I wouldn't say this is the best match out of the series, but it did play off the previous matches they had this year, and obviously both men worked for leg submissions and all that. That story was told as well. Eagles has done a lot better with his selling over the years as well. So really good matchup there on night 6.
Yeah, he rolled up Robbie, huh?
Yeah.
It's been we mentioned this last time, but this is the roll-up tournament. There are so many roll-up pin victories in this tournament. Like I don't know if it's like that every year, but it feels like it's way more this year.
Yeah, I feel like in previous years, most dudes hit their finish, and that's it. This year, it's like sponsored by everybody's doing wacky roll-ups.
Okay, well, next we got Yoshinabu Kanemaru. 8 points, 4 wins, 3 losses. He defeated Sho on the 5th night, 8 minutes, 8 seconds. He was defeated by Risque the Gucci on the 6th night, 10 minutes and 13 seconds. And then on night 7, he was defeated by his tag team partner, El Desperado, 15 minutes, 10 seconds.
See, like I mentioned earlier, it's been really interesting to see Kanemaru, being positioned so high. I mean, normally, like you mentioned, he is that kind of grizzled vet who pulls the upset wins, but I feel like it's been a little bit more in this tournament, maybe because it's just so heavy at the beginning and pretty much, doing the jump zone right from the entranceway and not wasting any time. Like I said earlier, I popped for him beating Sho there on night 5. Had some interesting matches with Taguchi and Despi on 6 and 7. Taguchi was more more of a goofy match and trying to use some antics to get Taguchi out of there, but Taguchi was able to outmaneuver Kanemaru at the end there to get the win. Then Despy and Kanemaru didn't hold back here against his stablemate, and he knew he was going up against the junior champ and was hoping to get a future junior title shot out of this match.
Yeah, and he couldn't beat that man fair and square.
Yeah.
The thing with Kanemaru is, yes, I think part of it is that he's got 4 wins, so he's one of the, he's tied with, Taguchi, who's a historically good performer. He's tied with Taiji Ishimori, so he's in rarefied company, and that's not usually where we see him at this point in the tournament. I do expect him to start eating more losses between now and then, but I've enjoyed. I wouldn't say his matches. I think I say this every year about Kanemaru and Super Juniors, though. He always kind of sneakily has an enjoyable tournament because he's kind of a creative guy and finds different ways to do things.
Well, I think he has a certain role, and he's very good at that role. He's not going to try. He's not going to try and overachieve and try and get a 5-star match. Like, he knows where his spot is. He knows his role, and he does it perfect at his role.
And I think what makes it perfect is he's not doing the same thing every night. It's, like I mentioned, kind of creative. So, he is jump zoning people. He's finding different ways to cheat and make it believable that a guy like him from his status could be beating guys from the top level. And so it's like the Ishimori count out, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or like the jump zones when he beat up Show. So it's funny the way he's beating these guys up. Like he, no flips, just fists,
Yeah. So the next guy here, the Bone Soldier, Taiji Ishimori, also with 8 points, 4 wins, and 3 losses. On night 5, he was defeated by his tag team partner, El Phantasmo, 15 minutes, 53 seconds. On night 6, he defeated Hiromu Takahashi, big main event, 25 minutes, 36 seconds. And then on night 7, he lost to Yo, 13 minutes and 33 seconds.
Yeah, so Ishimori, probably, in my opinion, the number 1 or number 2 top performer in the tournament in terms of just match quality and effort right now, which I guess isn't that surprising because he's such a talented guy, but it is based on the levels of activity we've gotten out of him over the past 2 years,
Right. There's a knock on him sometimes that he's lazy, doesn't always try really hard. And we do see that in some matches, but I feel like, he's been trying, busting his ass really hard in this tournament and doing some really good performances. And, the match with Hiromu, it was an awesome matchup on night 6, throw back to some of their other, junior matches and super junior matches. And that was one of the best matches of the whole tournament. And just his, I feel like he's really upped the arm and shoulder work, incorporating shoulder breakers, more arm maneuvers, La Mysticas to kind of get into that bone lock. We saw that there with the Hiromu match where he got him in the middle and finally was able to get him to tap. The ELP match was very funny with both of these guys, at first not wanting to hurt each other, out-cheat each other, then also that kind of broke down, and it seemed like Taiji's had a loaded boot also that he was trying to use on Phantasmo, and at the end he was going to get the super kick, but he couldn't do it, and then Phantasmo took advantage.
Yeah, and you got to wonder, has Taiji Ishimori always had a loaded boot, and he's just chosen not to use it? He's kind of left that aspect to ELP. But what if secretly he's been harboring his own loaded boot the whole time and just, waiting for the opportune moment to unleash it?
Yeah.
But more likely the story here was that he decided to fight fire with fire and loaded his boot. And it was funny because he was in the opportune, place and time to unload it on ELP. And then at the last second, he, decided not to, and he got rolled up and lost.
Yeah. Ate a loss there. Then he ate a loss on night 7 to Yo. We'll talk about Yo in a little bit, but he's been kind of resurging, and he's been beating people with the 5-star clutch, his number 1 wacky roll-up that he does.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I mean, that was a high-stakes match for Yo. He's pretty much at the point, if he loses any other matches, he's going to be out of this tournament. So, if you believe in Yo and he's on a string of victories, again, we'll talk about it, but this wasn't necessarily the most surprising outcome in the world, but pretty good match. You know, Ishimori's out there doing his thing. I don't see him being a guy in play to win this tournament, but you know, he's pretty much positioning himself to have a big 2022 with these types of performances, and you know, who knows? I mean, he might be champion again before long.
Definitely, and I would definitely say go out of your way to check out the Hiromu match from night 6.
You know, I would say I was not as big on that match as everybody else was.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Hiromu here in a second, but there was a different Hiromu match that I've seen that I liked more, that I've seen like way lower grades for. That match I thought was good, but I don't know. I just didn't feel it the way everyone else did. It's got really high reviews, and I'm like, I don't know. It seemed regular to me.
I don't think it's Hiromu and Ishimori, man. You just don't. You're never as high as anybody else is.
Oh, that's right. I'm never as high as everyone else. That is true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bro, and you know what the funny thing? It's not like a confirmation bias. It's not like I'm thinking that they're not. In fact, in my mind, I'm always like, it's Hiromu and Ishimori. They're going to go out there and fucking kill it, you know? But then when you say that, I'm like, you know what? I am always lower on their matches. There's just a lot. There's a lot of. The early part of the match is very great. The final closing stanza was really great. But that middle heat segment with Ishimori is just like, I don't know. I want to see Hiromu do flips.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Hiromu did a great job though selling, and I really enjoyed like the new like shoulder breakers and working over the arm. I felt like Ishimori, it wasn't like he locked in a rest hold. I felt like he was kind of actively working over that area, especially since Hiromu also had like, you know, torn pec and shoulder issues and arm issues. I felt like I played in that story, so I don't know. I really dig the match.
Well, I do think that was important because I think going forward, they've really established that being a target for him, and Ishimori is kind of the first guy to really hone in on it more so than anyone else. And I think it played a factor into the next night of the tour for them. And, you know, that might continue to be a storyline going forward throughout the rest of Super Junior. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I was probably like 3 3/4 on that match. I think other people were higher.
I was like 4.5.
Oh God, I could maybe go 4, but I'll give you that. That's about it.
So next up, Risque the Gucci, 8 points also, 4 wins, 3 losses. Night 5, he lost to Master Wato, 12 minutes and 9 seconds. Night 6, he defeated Yoshinabu Kanemaru 10 minutes and 13 seconds. And then on night 7, he defeated Doki at 11 minutes and 39 seconds.
Yeah. Taguchi's out there. He's a good hand. He's got a comedic shtick. I wouldn't quite call a match with him a night off in the same traditional sense as like Yano is in the G1. But he doesn't seem like a guy that's too hard to work with. I don't think Taguchi's out there giving us big match Taguchi performances anymore right now. Maybe at the tail end of the tournament, that might change. But, you know, he's got 4 wins. He's doing well in the tournament. That's to be expected. He always does well in these tournaments. And but I don't have much to say here. I mean, they're solid matches. They're funny. They're kind of a night off. He's, you know, wrestling 3-star matches every night. Pretty consistent.
Yeah, I would say at the beginning of the tournament, I felt like a couple of his matches were more towards a big match Gooch style than kind of this middle stretch. He's kind of leaned back more into the comedy, especially like during the Doki match. They had the inflatable Doki pipe that Taguchi was messing around with Doki with in the match. But yeah, a lot of jokes, a lot of shenanigans here. Taguchi, you know, he's a guy who's a former top junior, so he's kind of in that top half of the block here with the champs, with SB and Sho and all these guys. But similar to Kanemaru, I think we will see Taguchi eat some losses as we go further in the tournament.
I'm pretty sure of it. Yeah, I think it's been a while since we really got like that. Well, I guess the Hiromu match was like the last really good singles match we got from Taguchi in the Super Juniors last year, probably, huh?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Hiromu, he's next up, 7 points, 3 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw. On night 5, he defeated stablemate and tag team partner Bushi, 21 minutes and 16 seconds. On night 6, he was defeated by Taiji Ishimori, 25 minutes, 36 seconds. And then on night 7, he was defeated by El Fantasmo at 23 minutes, 14 seconds. So I think this is kind of one of those runs where earlier we had a question that was asking us if we were surprised by some of the booking. I assume some of that is referring to Hiromu's, success in this year's tournament.
Yeah, I think they've been kind of doing a slow tease with Hiromu, and it's also he's always going to be one of the favorites. He's a top draw in the junior division, and I don't think you just can go out there right away and just have him beat everybody and be pushed super hard in these tournaments. You need him to eat some losses. You need to make it hard so people can invest in him, and people just don't get tired of him winning. So I understand what they're doing here and kind of setting him up for a comeback later on in the end of the tour. Eating 2 big losses to guys who are probably going to play into some final scenario, to Taiji and ELP, both Bullet Club guys he's had rivalries with and junior title matches with. So if he wins and becomes champion, you set up in future title matches, or maybe he needs to beat one of these guys to advance to the finals. There's going to be some stories definitely coming out from all the losses that he's had in the tournament so far.
Yeah. My whole thing with this is it's kind of like this. While initially I pretty much was predicting Hiromu to win the whole thing because that's just kind of the safe and obvious bet, the more as the tournament kind of continued on, the more I thought about it, I was like, that's kind of the most boring and obvious thing you could possibly do. Not because I don't like Hiromu and I wouldn't like to see him wrestle a big match in the Dome, especially with Desperado involved. And that might still happen regardless of whether he wins the tournament or not. And I think I've said that on the show. But, his trajectory, his character arc cannot just be that I was champion and then I got injured and I left and then I came back and I won the Super Juniors and now I'm headlining the Dome. And it feels like we've gotten that story several times now. And if they did it here again, it's just wash, rinse, and repeat at that point. So, again, I'm all for Desperado and Hiromu locking up, and I think there's a way to get there. But in my opinion, I am taking the stance right now. Hiromu Takahashi will not play a factor in the finals of Best Super Juniors 2021. He's not going to be in the finals.
Wow.
And in order for him to not be in the finals, he has to eat losses against guys like Taiji Ishimori and ELP. And they're doing it in a way to where he's, I wouldn't say protected, but he's compromised. He's still kind of coming back from the shoulder injury. That's kind of getting targeted. And I don't know, he's, some nights he's got that was another thing. What's the deal with some nights he's got the long boys and then other nights he's got the grungy shorts? And I'm like, part of me was like, was this a well thought out thing? Sort of like the Okan big match attire, but I don't think it is. I think the deal is, he's only got one pair of each at this point, and
right, and he washes one night and then wears the shorts, and he washes the shorts the other night, wears the long pants.
Right. I don't think that he put a lot of thought into this. I think he's like, after this tour, I'll buy some more shorts and we'll get rid of these long boys. We'll just go straight shorts,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty protected going forward. I think he's got interesting losses and character motivations that will propel him going into next year.
Yeah, I think the shoulder is definitely going to be the key here. So Taiji really started the work there on night 6 with all of the arm work he was doing and getting him to tap with the bone lock. And then we saw in the ELP match, ELP followed up on that and targeted the shoulder, targeted the arm, and even ELP got Hiromu into the bone lock as well towards the end of the match. Great near submission there, but really had a ton of focus there on that shoulder and arm. And at the end of that ELP Hiromu match, I know we'll talk about ELP in a second, but there was a promo at the end of that match where, he said that he's going to be winning Best of Super Juniors and will be at Wrestle Kingdom. And Jay White, if you're not there, and then he dropped the mic. So we had some questions here. First from Cactus Mac. Would ELP really benefit from moving up to heavyweight when that is already pretty crowded?
I was watching him wrestle Hiromu, and I don't recall necessarily having this thought last year when they wrestled in the Dome, but he seemed way bigger than Hiromu did. And he is obviously taller. Like I looked up his height, his build height, or maybe his real height. I don't know. They say he's 6'1", but he looks like he's probably 6'1".
Yeah.
You know, which that's a pretty tall frame. But it says he's under 200 pounds. And I don't know if right now at this point that's actually the case. He looks like he's got a little bit more muscle on his frame than he used to. So I think he could be a heavyweight if he really wanted to be.
Yeah, I feel like during COVID he bulked up. You know, as he was super king of trees in Canada, he really put some muscle on during that time period when he wasn't wrestling. And so yeah, I mean, he's as tall as almost like Zach or maybe Ospreay. Like he's in that height range, and both those guys are heavyweights. They both put on muscle. So I think even with his frame right now, if he puts on more muscle, great. But even with his frame right now, I think he could be in the heavyweight division and could be an interesting change up there.
Yeah. Yeah, we had another question here. Or did you already read that one from Dan?
No, I didn't.
Okay. He asked us, he said, if ELP takes over as Bullet Club leader, would you consider that an upgrade or downgrade from the Switchblade?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I feel like it's kind of hard to tell. I think from face value, it might seem like a downgrade because Jay's already been made a star. He's had his Wrestle Kingdom moments. He's had G1 moments. He's kind of been proven to draw great promos, had some great, match of the year candidates. I just feel like ELP really hasn't been tested in that area yet or pushed to that extent to really say whether or not he can hang at that level like Jay White got to.
Yeah. I mean, that almost echoes my exact sentiments. I mean, the one argument you might have against that line of thinking is they said the same thing about Kenny. So maybe that's the case. There is a part of me, though, that feels like Bullet Club has run its course. And, we don't know the situation with Jay, but there are a lot of people speculating he might be leaving. And then this kind of promo just sort of adds fuel to that fire. And who knows? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe with this supposed split with House of Torture, maybe ELP joins those guys and it's not, a business thing, but it's more just like an angle that they're running. You know? Or maybe hypothetically, Jay is leaving and they need ELP to facilitate his role so that he can be the leader guy that's going off against Evil. I don't really know, but most of it sounds boring to me if you ask my honest opinion. It's not something I really want to see at this point. I don't have very much interest in the House of Torture Bullet Club thing. This would be like the third or fourth time they've tried to do a Civil War of some sorts that just seems to kind of sputter out. And I'm not saying that El Phantasmo is for sure like a downgrade from Switchblade, but I think because the Bullet Club itself has downgraded with every single leader, it feels like. Yeah. It would kind of be a downgrade in a certain sense. I don't know if the Bullet Club platform is one where El Phantasmo is just going to like suddenly become a top guy or a top star. It just doesn't feel that way. It certainly wasn't for Evil, and I don't know if it would be for him.
Right. I will say I do feel like ELP does remind me more of previous Bullet Club guys. He reminds me more of a Kenny of the Young Bucks, like an AJ from that kind of the characters that they were kind of playing more than Jay. I still feel like Jay is still kind of a weird fit for Bullet Club. So I think in that sense, ELP could be a better leader in that sense.
I kind of agree, but I think that Jay is a weird fit for the leader of the Bullet Club when you're comparing it to the ensembles that you mentioned from the past. But those guys aren't here anymore. That's the problem. I think Jay fits in great with the Bullet Club that's here. I don't know that ELP would be a great leader for the guys that are here. I mean, you got Yujiro, you got Ishimori, GOD. This isn't exactly, OG Bullet Club guys.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see what their plans are going forward here.
But that was a very, very interesting promo. It got people talking, and I am excited to. The only thing that would be exciting to me is if somehow Phantasmo and Jay White got into like a feud. That's one that actually would have interest for me. Anything involving Evil, I just don't have
Yeah. ELP and Jay would be way better than doing Jay versus Evil or ELP versus Evil.
Right.
Sling TV, built to save you money and bring you the channels you love, including ESPN, AMC, HGTV, and more. Watch your favorite comedies, dramas, suspense thrillers, news, sports, and more for just $35 a month. And your first month is only $10. Sign up now and start streaming right away on your TV, phone, and tablet. Take control of your TV solution with Sling. It makes TV flat out better. Go to sling.com to sign up now and get your first month for just $10.
So next up, we got Bushi coming in 6 points, 30 wins, and 4 losses. Night 5, he lost to his tag partner, Hiromu. Night 6, he defeated the aforementioned ELP, 13 minutes, 45 seconds. And then on night 7, he was defeated by Robbie Eagles, 12 minutes and 52 seconds.
Okay, perfect. So, I mean, at this point, a lot of the things that I said about Taguchi, I think you could kind of apply to Bushi. Although I think Bushi is putting in a pretty good, solid effort, and he's trying his hardest. But, you know, I'm just not a big Bushi guy. I think he's having good matches, and that's about it. And he's the quintessential mid-card junior in New Japan.
Yeah, I think very similar to Kanemaru. I feel like, yeah, Bushi has that role. And again, I feel like he kind of knows that role. And I know he's had previous injuries as well. I mean, he is working very hard, but I feel like he kind of knows like where his slotting is. And he's probably just happy with that. And that he did, like you mentioned, very serviceable, very, good to very good matches depending who he's facing, and goes out there. He gives a really hard effort. You're not going to get a ton of notebook matches out of him, but he's, doing his job.
I was interested in the singles match he had with Hiromu, just because of the aspect that they're, partners and everything like that. So, I mean, and then plus like Naito came down and did commentary during the match. So, I mean, that element was pretty cool and exciting. But other than that, I wouldn't, like you said, he's serviceable.
Yeah, that Hiromu match was probably the best match that he had this past week. And yeah, just a lot of intrigue. I think the thing with Bushi, it's just kind of very hard to buy him beating anybody seriously. And when he does beat people, we're like, oh, okay.
Well, I mean, I do believe it, because it's like he's beaten quite a few guys. I mean, he was the IWGP Junior Champion at one point. So, but I mean, if he were to go on a run and start like beating everybody, I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah. So next up, Robbie Eagles with 6 points, 30 wins, and 4 losses. Robbie lost to Yo on night 5, 13:48. He lost to Despy on night 6 in 18:25. And then like we mentioned, he defeated Bushi on night 7, 12 minutes, 52 seconds.
So earlier we answered a question and we kind of talked about Eagles kind of a bit. So I feel like we did a pretty good job sort of covering this. The only other thing I would add to my thoughts on Robbie is the one thing that could end up making it feel like he hasn't really elevated, even though all the other things we said were true, that they're giving him more time. He's getting more reactions. He feels, more kind of comfortable, that sort of thing, is if at the end he does end up like with the 500 record. If at the end of it he still ends up with that, then our listener that asked the question is absolutely right. He hasn't gotten any higher than he was just a year earlier. But I don't expect that to be the case. I am thinking that most of the guys that were recent champions will have pretty good records by the end of this.
Yeah. Yeah, overall, it's a good week here for Robbie. I would think probably his best match was probably the Despy match from night 6. But I do think, after beating Bushi on 7, we will see him continuing to trend upward as we continue on the tournament.
Nice. So after that, we have El Phantasmo sitting at 6 points, 3 wins, 4 losses. And he defeated Taiji Ishimori night 5. He was defeated by Bushi on night 6 in what some call an upset. And then night 7, he defeated Hiromu Takahashi.
Yeah, so we kind of talked about ELP and some of the matches he's had with all these opponents here. Also, we talked about the Taiji match, just what a kind of a funny match that was with them trying to out-cheat each other at the end there, and Taiji not being able to super kick him with the loaded boot. The Hiromu match, that main event that happened yesterday, was a really good main event matchup here. There was some cheating towards the closing stretch there, but then they continued on and had some more exchanges and reversals. ELP actually, there was a ref bump. He went underneath the ring to grab the load. He switched his shoe out, put the loaded boot on, and that led to him finally countering the time bomb and hitting the sudden death on Hiromu to get the win.
So I noticed, and now they're pretty early as far as the reviews and results go, but I noticed that people were a lot lower on that match than I am. And I wouldn't say I liked it, maybe say quite as much as the Wrestle Kingdom match, but I thought the match he had with Hiromu was really awesome. And I thought that it had some of the strongest closing sequences, like big match feeling closing sequences of any match in this entire tournament this far. I really do.
Yeah, there was a ton of just great reversals out of the time bombs, reversing the spinning neckbreaker gimmick that he does, reversing the one wing angel. Like, there's a ton of great counters here.
A lot of great counters and reversals, like you mentioned, but also some really great near falls too. I mean, there was a few that I actually bid on. So, I mean, I don't know. I think there's some sort of weird reason that everyone else seems to be a lot lower on this matchup than I am. But yeah, I thought that match really ruled. I also noticed in the Bushi match, you know, he got pinned because he kept continuously trying to go for that one-winged angel. Then he tried to go for it against Hiromu, and obviously he's never been able to hit the one-winged angel. That's the one homage move of all the other previous Bull Club leaders that he's never been able to utilize. And then he cut that promo after he beat Hiromu, basically stating like, you know, maybe we need to stop looking to the past, start focusing on the future, you know?
Right.
And I don't know if that has something to do with the story that they're telling with him trying to constantly use a previous leader's, you know, maneuver. And maybe he needs to get away from that and just focus on kicking people's heads, you know, the way he did those trees up in the tundra.
Yeah, because that was almost a downfall for him in the Hiromu match. You know, he hit the V trigger, then he went for the one wing, and then Hiromu was able to do a victory roll out of that and get a near fall. So he almost lost it there.
Yeah. So that's my only real thoughts there. But I mean, you know, I think he's having a pretty good tournament, honestly.
Yeah, I would say he's one of the top performers thus far.
Yeah, and he's another guy I expect to start picking up more wins. You know, people are thinking that, you know, I think actually if you look at the scores, I think this is a pretty parity-based tournament across the board for the most part. And I think that's why people are also surprised about so many people taking losses.
Yeah.
Also, keep in mind, that's why we're getting so many roll-up victories. It's because people are getting protected by but still losing, you know?
Right, and I think at the same time, too, like, they need to create new stars. They need to elevate people and put people on level Hiromu. Everybody complains that Hiromu's the only top junior. Well, the way to do that, you have to have guys beat him and elevate guys to his level. So,
yeah, Hiromu's the only guy that wins all the matches and taps everybody out and has all the 4 stars and then headlines the dome and then what?
Yeah, then he moves to heavyweight or he goes to America. Then what happens?
Goes wrestle on the Rainbow brand.
He joins Kushida and Jiro in Jacket Time.
No, he attacks Kushida under a completely different gimmick, and they're never allowed to acknowledge that they ever knew each other in the past.
So moving on to the next guy, Yo, also with 6 points, 3 wins and 4 losses. So on night 5, he defeated Robbie Eagles. Night 6, he defeated Master Wato, and then night 7, he defeated the Bone Soldier Taiji Ishimori.
Yeah, so Yo's a very interesting situation. You know, he lost his first 4 matches back to back to back. And then it was pretty much stated, like, if he lost a single other one, it would mathematically disqualify him. And even at this point, even if he won all of his matches going forward, there is always the possibility he could still get disqualified because 4 losses is something with tiebreakers and everything like that. You could still get eliminated. But if you want my honest opinion after looking at this, I mean, he beat Robbie Eagles, he beat Wato, he beat Ishimori. I think that Yo is going to win every single match until the final night. At that point, I don't know what's going to happen, but he is facing Sho on the final night, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of, and we're not the only podcast, but there's, you know, people are watching this. Everyone kind of lamented what was going on with Yo. I mean, this guy has won a singles match since before he was injured, like in 2019. He's been losing all these tag matches. He came up on the short end of Roppongi 3K. There's a lot of things to kind of complain about. And then they're beating him like a drum, and it's like, what is going on? And last week, you and I both kind of sounded like we're like, yeah, maybe he's just done in this tournament, and this is a continuation of some story that they got down the road for him. But now, looking at these 3 wins back to back, I'm like, oh no, we're stupid. This is why everyone's losing, and this is why they just did the story that they do every time, where someone starts off not hot and then they come back, on the comeback trail towards the tail end. That's what they're doing with Yo. Now I do want to take something back. I said earlier that Hiromu couldn't play into the finals. I keep getting confused with these single block tournaments, and I keep forgetting that at the end, the top 2 point earners are going to face off again.
Right.
So I could be wrong on that. Hiromu could still be in play. But I think Sho and Yo is going to be like one of the top determining matches, and I wouldn't be surprised if somehow they end up in the finals against each other again, even after the final night.
Yeah, that could make a ton of sense, especially with the rivalry that they have going on. And also, Sho started super hot and Yo starting cold, and Sho has eaten 1 loss so far. So I think we're going to see Sho eat some losses on the way to the finals, while Yo continues to pick up more wins. And he's been utilizing the 5-star clutch, that roll-up gimmick that he does. And so he's been getting a lot of wins with that and keeping people with that.
Yeah, what's his finishing move called again? You gave me the name of it.
Direct drive.
The direct drive. Okay, I was watching this match. I was like, all right, let's figure out what the fuck the direct drive is, so I know what it is. It's basically just a Death Rider, but it spins a little bit.
Right. Yeah, it's the JD Drake, his drill bit. Angelo Dawkins uses it sometimes too.
Okay, so the funny thing is, you said that last week, and I was like, dude, I don't know what those guys' finishers are, but it's pretty much the same move that Moxley does, except they spin a little bit before he drops them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, man, I think that's what's going on with Yo. I don't know that he's going to be in the finals. I don't know he's going to win the tournament or anything like that. But I think that the main story of this tournament is Sho and Yo. And I think probably a lot of people presumed that might have ended up being the case. But then when they started off with, Sho doing this House of Torture crap over here, and then Yo just getting beat like a drum night after night, it was like, oh, I guess not. Taking them separate directions. But I think that's what's happening. I think the tale of this tournament is establishing Sho and Yo as singles guys.
Yeah, and I think they didn't want to, beat it over the top of our heads right away, and they didn't want to make it super obvious right in the beginning. Which New Japan always they're very good at, like, not making things super obvious and making you kind of think and wait for what you really want. So it makes tons of sense that they went with this. They always do this kind of storyline where one guy starts super hot, one guy starts super cold, and they kind of end up going opposite directions here. And so, yeah, I'll see. You got to establish Sho as a singles. You got to establish Yo. And so,
yeah, December 11th, Best of the Super Juniors, Yo and Sho are fighting on the final night. So it makes a lot of sense to me that that's the case.
Yeah.
I guess I should have put my thinking hat on before I started analyzing this tournament. Usually we do a big breakdown for Super Juniors, but the last 2 years it just hasn't felt worthy of it.
Well, they didn't really give us time either. They just kind of throw the tournament and starts right away. We don't even have a week or so to do a big preview like we normally would in a May Super Juniors.
That combined with the amount of other coverage that's been going on with this company, it's been impossible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the deal with Yo. I think he's gonna be a player at the end.
Yeah. So next up we got Doki, who's at 4 points. He has 2 wins and 5 losses. On night 5, he lost to Despy. Night 6, he lost to Sho, and on night 7, he lost to Gucci.
So Doki's back to his losing ways. I still find him to be extremely entertaining in this tournament, regardless. I think he's doing as good as can be expected in these, 15 to sub 15 minute matches. I really liked the Desperado match in particular, but the one thing I've noticed with Doki is anytime he puts someone in the Doki chokey, it's pretty much a sign that he's about to lose the match, because it's true. It's become the moment where it's like, oh, okay, he's about to lose,
Yeah.
Sho's got the ref bump. And then you know what's going to happen. Doki's putting him in the Doki choking. He's like, all right, he's about to get out of here.
Game over for him. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I've really enjoyed Doki this whole tournament. I would say he kind of peaked a little bit higher towards the earlier part of the tournament. But
it's because he went over, brother.
Yeah. But yeah, this past week has been good as well. Yeah, the Despy match probably the best out of this stretch here. But yeah, Doki's the guy, like we mentioned, not going back, works super hard. He's doing the crazy dives and crazy bumps and really working hard to get over and get his matches over.
Nice. And then finally we got Wato sitting at 4 points, 2 wins, 5 losses. On night 5, he defeated Risque the Gucci, 12 minutes, 9 seconds. Night 6, Yo defeated Wato, 14 minutes and 58 seconds. And then night 7, Sho defeated Master Wato by referee's decision, 15 minutes and 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's been very interesting to see the kind of difference in placement that Wato has this year versus last year. I feel like last year he was in more main events and semi-main events. He did higher in the block, and now he's started off super cold here, 2-5. He's not been in a ton. I don't think he's been in any main event or semi. I think he's had like one main event against Despy, I think. But besides that, he hasn't really had a lot of big matches like that. He's kind of been in that 13 to 15 minute range for his matches and eating a lot of losses. So it's kind of interesting that the company kind of shifted down, it seems like, on Master Wato.
That's true, but he also is a lot more competent this year in the ring than he was last year. I don't know that warrants a massive push, but, you know, the whole thing with him being like a botch master, that's kind of gone by the wayside. But, yeah, I mean, this isn't really his tournament. You look at the guys that are here, the established names and everything. That's not to say he couldn't end the tournament with a few more points, you know, maybe ending with like 6, possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's, you know, a 2-win guy, gets like, you know, or 4 points, 6 points, maybe 8 at the most.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's had some decent matches. I don't think nothing's really blown me away. Like you mentioned, he's not really botching anything. He's been very competent, been hitting his tornillos and all of his big moves, that backslide driver that he does and the RPP. And so, yeah, he's looked good in the ring. And yeah, he's been fine.
Yeah. So that is going to do it. That is our recap on Best Super Juniors. We've gone a little long on this. I know we've want to cover the rest of the stuff on the show. We got World Tag League. There's a lot of teams here. Do you want to just go over who won what and then or maybe the standings and then maybe just have general discussion on this stuff?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, awesome. So Tetsuya Naito and Sonata are sitting at the top of the block with 10 points. They defeated Tanahashi and Yano on night 4. They defeated the Bullet Club team of Fale and Owens on night 5. And then on night 6, they were defeated by the United Empire. Zack Sabre and Taichi are tied with them at 10 points, 5 wins, 1 loss. They were defeated by the United Empire on night 4. They defeated GOD on night 5. And then on night 6, they defeated Tanahashi and Yano. Just underneath them, Bullet Club team of Fale and Owens sitting at 8 points, 4 wins, 2 losses. Night 4, they defeated Great Bash Heel. On night 5, they lost to LIJ. Night 6, they defeated Suzuki-gun, team of Suzuki and Taka. Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi, the Chaos team, 4 wins, 2 losses, 8 points. They defeated Tiger Mask and Yuji Nagata on night 4. They lost to House of Torture on night 5. And then they defeated Great Bash Heel on night 6. Great Khan and Aaron Hanare, the United Empire team, 4 wins, 2 losses, 8 points. They defeated Dangerous Techers on night 4. They lost to Tanahashi and Yano on night 5. And then they defeated LIJ, as we mentioned. Tanahashi and Yano are also tied at 8 points. They were defeated by LIJ. They lost to United Empire, and then they were defeated by the Dangerous Techers on night 6, as mentioned. GOD, last year's champions, 8 points, 4 wins, 2 losses. They defeated the Suzuki-gun team on night 4. They lost to the Dangerous Techers on night 5, and then night 6, they defeated Tenkoji. Evil and Yujiro are sitting at 6 points, 3-3. They lost to House of Torture on night 4. Oh, they are House of Torture. Sorry about
Yeah.
that. They defeated Tenkoji on night 4. They defeated Chaos Team on night 5, and then night 6 they defeated Blue Tiger. Tenkoji sitting at 2 wins, 4 losses. They have 4 points, and they lost to House of Torture on night 4. Night 5 they defeated Great Bash Heel, and then night 6 they lost to God. And then the final 3 teams here sitting at the bottom. So we've got Yuji Nagata and Tiger Mask. They are 1-5, 2 points. They lost to Chaos Team on night 4. They defeated the Suzuki-gun team of Suzuki and Taka Michinoku on night 5. And then night 6, they lost to House of Torture. Great Bash Heel are sitting at 0 points, 6 losses. They've been eliminated. They lost to the Bullet Club team on night 4. They lost to Tenkoji on night 5, and then they lost to Chaos on night 6. And then tied with them with 0 wins, Minoru Suzuki and Taka Michinoku. They lost to God, Tiger Mask and Yuji Nagata, and the Bullet Club team on subsequent nights.
Yeah, so again, this has been a, solid tournament with very good, 3-star wrestling. Not a ton of notebook stuff here. I think also one of the key stories was Sonata and Naito being pushed as one of the top teams here until they got the big upset loss on night 6, their first loss against the United Empire, who I feel like they've been pushing in this tournament as well. Hanare and Great O'Connor, they beat Naito and Sonata. They also beat the tag champs, Dangerous Tekkers, on night 4. So similar to like what we saw when it was Cobb and Great O'Connor, United Empire is pushed very strong, and now with Cobb kind of taking more of a singles role, Aaron Hanare has kind of slid into Cobb's spot here in the tag team, and they're going pretty strong here with United Empire.
Yeah, and it's felt for a little while that there was always the possibility that they might end up doing Cobb and Great O'Connor as like the next future tag team challengers, maybe even champions down the road. But and that could still be the case. But right now, with him and Hanare, they seem to be kind of firing on all cylinders, and that might free up Cobb to do more in the singles division, especially considering the 2021 that he's had. Then again, with Will Ospreay kind of returning to Japan, who knows how long that, needs to be the case, and maybe they'll go back to that previous team. But yeah, for the time being, O'Khan and Hanare have done really, really good. In particular, that night 4 match, Dangerous Tekkers versus United Empire, I would call that the only really highly recommended match of the tournament for me so far, other than maybe Suzuki-gun versus Dangerous Tekkers from the first night. I thought this match was probably like 3 3/4. Very, considering the level of competition we've had in this tournament, I think that this, is a high in the tournament so far.
Yeah, I went 4 stars flat on that one. I really enjoyed that main event. I also really enjoyed United Empire and LIJ from today's show. That was a really great main event also. And yeah, I'm digging Hanare and O'Connor. I think they're working really well together. They're gelling well together. And yeah, they've been putting on some really good matches. And the crowd kind of gasped night 6 because it was Great O'Connor hitting the Eliminator on Sonata and pinned Sonata. And I feel like the crowd's kind of taken aback by that.
Yeah. That is a little surprising, but we've also seen Sonata have issues, defeating Great O'Connor in the past, especially when they first faced off in the New Japan Cup last year. So it's not, the biggest surprise in the world. But, they're definitely pushing them because they've got 2 big wins over 2 of the favorite teams in the tournament. So we'll see how that goes. Speaking of which, the tag team champions, Dangerous Tekkers, I think, in my opinion, they're still the standout tag team in this year's tournament, which has kind of been the case the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, really great work. The GOD match was really good, especially you have Tama working really hard in this, fiery babyface Tama mode, and it was a really just hard-hitting and fast-paced matchup. Really enjoyed that one.
You want to know my take? I actually didn't like that match.
Really?
And, yeah, it just seemed to kind of disappoint me a bit. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I wasn't paying as much attention, but that was one where I was like, okay, we're getting GOD, we're getting Dangerous Tekkers. Considering the year they had, they're going to go out there and put on a banger. And I just didn't feel like they did. I don't know. It's weird. I feel like that's a combination of guys you'd expect with how familiar they all are with one another, that every time they'd go out there that it would be, of a certain like level, but it seems to kind of vary from, match to match to match. They don't all seem to kind of be of the same like standard or quality. But if you like this match, that's great. There's a good chance it's World Tag League. I might not have been paying as much attention.
I wouldn't say it definitely wasn't their best match that they had together, but I thought it was really good, and especially with not focusing on claws or any weird outside stuff, and just kind of the action in the ring. That
is probably true. I think I was like 3 1/4 on this.
Yeah, I think I was like 3.5 or 3 3/4. I can't remember where I went on that one.
I was like, dang. I was like, these are like the top 2 premier teams. I was like, this should like rule.
Yeah.
It was all right. Fale Owens, I think they're doing pretty good. I think they're working hard, and they're doing well in the tournament, a lot better than they have in the past.
Yeah, kind of surprising that they're at top of the block right now, 8 points towards the top there. And, yeah, they've been picking up some wins. I think it's kind of a make good for Chase for not giving him his U.S. title shot.
Obviously, Naito and Sonata, I still think they're on the track to potentially win this whole thing. We'll see. There's the Chaos team. I think they're doing as well as could be expected. One team that's really interesting, Tanahashi and Yano. Did you notice that they got merch now?
I did not see the merch. No.
There's a shirt that they're wearing. I'm assuming is for sale. It's a black and white shirt, and it's got them like doing the pose together with the jackets on, and then underneath it says Tana or Hiroshi, and the other one says Toru. And I was like, dude, this is like the Y2AJ of New Japan teams. Like, these guys are never teaming again after this.
Yeah,
they got fucking merch.
I've been skipping through some of the entrances to save on time, so I must have missed them wearing that shirt. But
yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird mix because Tanahashi seems like he still wants to go out there and have really good matches, but then Yano is still kind of doing his shtick, but he's definitely trying more than he usually does. And I don't know, it's kind of a weird marriage, but I kind of dig it.
Yeah, some nights are better than others. The night where they faced Dangerous Techers, night 6, today's show, they had the whole thing where they both they tied up Taichi and Zach at the guardrail, but then Kanemaru came and saved them, and then they got Tanahashi and Yano tied together, taped together, and they failed to make the count out. So that was kind of weird, and just seeing Tanahashi fumbling around with Yano and tape.
Huh. Yeah. Tanahashi, sometimes he's goofy,
But I guess it's better for him to do that than do high fly flows to the floor every night and kill himself.
Well, see, that's what I was referring to, is like sometimes he wants to do that because he was doing that early on in the tournament.
Yeah.
And now maybe like he's getting to the point where he's like, dome season's coming up. Maybe I should take it easy now that we got a Noah show going on,
Yeah, gotta be ready.
God, I think they're fine. I don't know. I think like the 2 teams that haven't really surprised me in any way are Chaos and God. I think both those teams are going out there and having the types of matches I expect them to have just based on history, like they're not bad. They're not blow away. They're fine. They'll probably turn it up the last 2 nights.
Yeah, I mean, God, they've been solid in the tournament. Again, they're 4-2 right up there with some of the top teams. So obviously, yeah, they're going to be alive towards the end. House of Torture, Evil, and Yujiro.
It's a dumpster fire. Like, I don't even know what else to say. Like, it's bad every night. It sucks really bad.
Yeah, the only bright side, I guess, with them is that some of their cheating is getting foiled. As you can see, they're 3-3 right now, so they're not winning everything. So some of their cheating does get foiled, and the babyfaces do get to overcome and outsmart them. So that's kind of, at least if you sit through cheating, it's kind of good. The babyface kind of gets one up on them. But yeah,
but I'm nervous because they've got 3 in a row and they lost their first 3, and it feels like they might be on that yo trajectory where they start, building up momentum towards the tail end of the tournament.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. I can easily see them, skyrocket, past Chase and Fale and, Yano and Tanahashi and getting up there.
Beyond that, the last 4 teams, Kojima, Tenzan, the God of Tiger Mask, Great Bash Heel, Suzuki, Taka, Michinoku. You're talking about all of your olds in the tournament. They're all pretty much exactly where I expect them to be.
Olds on bottom.
Olds on the bottom, yeah. The one thing we did learn is that Tiger Mask is of a higher status in the company than Taka Michinoku in this tournament. So they did pick up that one win there. There was one match where where Tenkoji was wrestling Great Bash Heel, and towards the tail end of the match, Hanma headbutt Kojima so freaking hard, and for no reason. And then Kojima did the Western Lariat, and he, instead of hitting him across the chest, he freaking forearmed Hanma in the head as hard as he could. And I was like, bro, why are these guys firing live rounds on each other with their old asses? Why?
That was a receipt from
That was
Hanma.
a receipt.
Kojima was like, bro, chill, but yeah, those guys. I think Kojima and Tenzan, I think they've been working really hard, especially Kojima. It's hard to see if those guys can. Tiger and Nagata, kind of the grumpy old men, strong style grumpy old men. They're been fun to watch and see them work as a team. Great Bash Shield's been fun. Suzuki and Taka. I mean, Taka's been pretty much getting his ass kicked this whole tournament.
The one interesting thing, one of these nights, I don't remember this. Actually, it was night 5. Yuji Nagata and Tiger Mask, they did defeat Suzuki and Taka Michinoku, which that match was pretty fun. It was in the main event, and I liked seeing, obviously, anytime I get Nagata and Suzuki head-to-head, that's always cool.
Yeah, and that was part of the Nagata anniversary Blue Justice kind of show thing.
Well, that's the thing I was going to say. I didn't know that was Blue Justice 10. I don't. Did you know that it was billed as that at all?
Well, it wasn't
going into it.
But he came out and did a promo at the very start of the show, and I was like, okay, what's he talking about? And then
I must have missed that
because we don't have English yet. And then he was in the main event, so I was like, oh. And then post match, I had a big thing where he had got flowers, Kojima got flowers, Tenzan got flowers, Chono came out.
Well, that was for Tenkoji's 30th anniversary, is what that was. So he called out Hantai, and because I actually saw this on the English, so he called Hantai out so they could all honor Tenkoji for 30 years in the business. That's what that was. But the show was marketed as World Tag League Dash Blue Justice 10. And I had no idea that it was a Blue Justice show. I'm like, what is going on?
Neither did I, but it wasn't that same arena that it is every year, and he opened up with the promo, but
it's his home. That's where that's his hometown.
Yeah.
So that was the significance there. But cool to see him win in his hometown as opposed to other companies.
Yeah.
But any final thoughts on the tournament? I'm still thinking I'm still holding on to Sonata and Naito being my winners of this tournament in the end.
Yeah, I think Sonata and Naito are the favorites. I do think United Empire is a team to keep their eye on that you could.
Right.
Because I think Sonata and Naito, did they beat Techers already?
I don't know. I can't recall.
I can't remember, but either way, I feel like they can still get into the title match if they beat Techers, and not worry about having to actually win the tournament, like if United Empire won. But also, I still think that Sonata and Naito could be the favorites here.
Good stuff. Great tournament. I love World Tag League.
Well, let's go over the upcoming schedule for both tournaments this upcoming week. So on night 8 of Super Juniors, Friday, December 3rd, we're going to have an opener of Oiwa and Fujita, then Master Wato versus Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Robbie Eagles versus Doki, Bushi versus Taiji Ishimori, Sho versus El Phantasmo, Hiromu Takahashi versus Risque the Gucci, and a main event of Yo versus El Desperado. Then we'll move on to night 7 of Tag League on Thursday, December 2nd. We'll have Naito and Sonata in the main event against Dangerous Techers, Tanahashi and Yano against Goto and Yoshihashi, G.O.D. versus House of Torture, Blue Tiger versus United Empire, Tenkozy versus Fale and Chase, and Great Bash Heel versus Suzuki and Taka with an opener of Nakashima and Vegeta. Then night 8 of Tag League will be on Saturday, December 4th. We'll have a main event of Tanahashi and Yano against GOD, followed by Dangerous Tekkers against House of Torture, Tenkoji versus LIJ, Great Bash Heel versus United Empire, Chaos versus Suzuki and Taka, Blue Tiger versus Fale and Chase, and the Dragon, Shingo Takagi, will be in the opener against Oiwa. Then on
Go ahead.
Night 9 of Super Juniors, we will have, this will be Sunday, December 5th, we'll have a main event of Bushi versus Despy, Hiromu versus Master Wato in the semi-main, then Eagles versus Sho, Taguchi versus ELP, Yo versus Kanemaru, Taiji Ishimori versus Doki, and then Nakashima versus Oiwa. Then on Night 9 of Tag League, Tuesday, December 7th, we'll have LIJ versus GOD in the main event, Chaos versus Fale and Chase, Tenkoji versus United Empire, Great Bash Heel versus House of Torture, Yano and Tanahashi versus Suzuki and Taka, Blue Tiger versus Dangerous Tekkers, and then Nakashima versus Kosei Fujita in the opener.
Would it make you nervous if I told you that on the final night of Tag League, Sonata and Naito are taking on the House of Torture team of Evil and Yujiro?
Yes, it would. There's a great chance that they could beat Sonata and Naito.
The other big matches to look out for that night, we have Tekkers against Chaos, and GOD against United Empire. Everything else seems to be kind of just like,
Yeah, either House of Torture is playing spoiler and keeping LIJ out of the finals, or they're getting into the finals. I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting. I mean, we got 2 nights at the Dome, so who knows?
Yeah. Well, now let's move over to New Japan of America. This past Saturday, we had the final night of the Showdown Tour, which took place in the 2300 Arena, ECW Arena in Philadelphia. The show opened up with the Octopus, Jonathan Gresham, defeating Alex Coughlin 9 minutes, 51 seconds.
Yeah, so the roll-ups, they just continue over here on the American product as well. No, this match was really, really cool. It's kind of funny because, like, to me, this is my idea of what I think good wrestling is like really technical, really believable, hard-hitting, strong style kind of like wrestling. And that's what like Gresham and Coughlin were doing. Gresham's a little prettier than my tastes, are kind of designed towards, but as far as like his style, he's just very like kind of finesse, even with the added muscle. But Coughlin is really up to bro, he's getting so good. Like,
really fast, crazy. Yeah.
That, and then just a lot of the little things he's doing. He's got little wrinkles to his game. I might be to the point where I'm ready to say Alex Coughlin's my favorite of Fredericks and Connors at this point.
Ooh.
Yeah. Just the style of his wrestling is really great. But, Gresham was able to outsmart him and, basically turned a pinning combination into a winning situation for himself.
Yeah, really good matchup. I really enjoyed it a lot. Like you mentioned, very technical. And, Coughlin, the whole purpose of this challenge series is to fight different opponents and test himself in different areas. So this was a great test for him in that kind of technical grappling area. He looked really good in this match.
But it's one of those things where it's like, this is why rating matches is hard, because most people would look at it 9 minutes, 51 seconds. Wasn't any like big dramatic moment that like stood out to them. They might rate it lower than like someone like me, where I was watching and I was like, oh my God, the stuff they're doing is like, they're really telling a story in there, So, I don't know. But I really like this match a lot. I wish I could have seen it live. I wish I would have gone to the 2300 arena.
Yeah, that was a really good matchup. Then the second matchup, we had Fred Rosser, Carl Fredericks, Ren Narita, Rocky Romero, and the DKC defeating Team Filthy by disqualification. We had the emergence of a Black Tiger who came out with a pipe and attacked Rocky Romero that caused the disqualification, and they beat down Rosser and Rocky, and Team Filthy was standing strong here at the end.
Yeah, so there's some good things, some bad things. So like the good, I'm really digging what is going on with Team Filthy and the Fred Rosser feud. You know, the idea that Filthy Tom Lawler collected the hair that he cut off of Fred Rosser's head and turned it into a necklace
with the scissors.
Oh my God, bro. Like, that's incredible. Like, heat, you know?
Yeah.
So I like that part a lot. I liked every time he interacted with I keep wanting to call him Darren because that's what they called him.
Yeah, Tom Lawler to get heat was calling him Darren Young. He's like, Darren, you're not gonna beat me, Darren.
Yeah, but every time him and Fred Rosser interacted, it was really awesome. I mean, overall, this was a pretty great, 10-man tag, but I didn't love the finish. And when the Black Tiger arrived, there was just a lot that I didn't like about it. Like, I mean, I don't know. If you don't want to know who it is, maybe fast forward like a minute or two to the show because I'm going to tell you who it is. It's Ricky Reyes.
Right.
Which, like, Ricky Reyes is like a pretty well-known, independent star from, past years. But, like, Ricky Reyes is kind of old. And maybe, like, that's what you want for your Black Tiger. And maybe this explains why all year Rocky's been, like, bringing the old Black Tiger mask out with him. But I don't know, man. Like, this just felt kind of weird and contrived. And then it's like, who is this Black Tiger? And then it's like, oh, he's working with Team Filthy. And then I don't know. That it didn't go over that well. The Kozlov kept calling him the Black Tiger mask. Just like, it's not his name. And people in the crowd did not know who it was either. They didn't seem to. They were reacting to the heat that, like, Team Filthy was getting, but they didn't seem to react too much to Black Tiger. And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, there was no. It just felt like a dud to me. I don't know.
And I feel like I haven't seen any, like, follow up on the upcoming tapings that they've done. So I'm wondering if it's gonna get dropped or, like, it's gonna be like a one shot kind of thing. I don't know.
I'll tell you one thing. It's getting Angle of the Year nominees. That's what I'm telling you. But there was a post-match beatdown, and they used a kendo stick to beat the crap out of Rocky Romero as well as Fred Rosser. Got a lot of heat from the crowd.
Dude, JR Kratos was getting a lot of heat.
A lot of heat. So was Team Filthy. But then they went to the back and they tried to cut like a Four Horsemen-esque promo, which I'm a big proponent of guys and teams all cutting a promo together, like Survivor Series style.
Yeah.
But, like, this was kind of bad. Like Filthy Tom Lawler was cutting an awesome promo. Awesome. Like, but then, like, Royce Isaacs cut, like, a pretty good promo, but he was, like, trying to feel when to jump in, and he couldn't jump in at the right time. And then, Danny Limelight said a couple things. He was smart because he's, like, he didn't say much, he just kind of added his 2 cents and got out of there. But then Jarrell Nelson, he's a horrible promo.
He was like, they said everything else that needs to be said. That's it.
And then that's it. And then, like, Tom Lawler's like, that's not it. And then the one thing that's funny, though, is, like, they're all trying to talk, but, like, all the while they're talking, and, like, they're also, like, they're making crazy facials. They've never, like, I don't know, like, they're doing what they think a wrestler should be doing in that moment. But the one dude who's looking like for real is JR Kratos. He's got these, like, this menacing look, and, like, he's just like he gets it. You know what I'm saying? He's not even saying any words, and he fits the role and the character more than the other guys do. But then after all that wackiness, Tom Lawler cut this incredible promo on Fred Rosser as a rebuttal to the one that Fred Rosser, that was filled with all those expletives. Talked about, I wish you were man enough to come to my house. I wish you would come fight me in front of my children. He's like, you're not man enough to come fight me in front of my I was like, oh, it's such a good promo.
Yeah, dude. Filthy Tom, laid it into him.
Talked about how, like, he's going to, like, put him under the ground, and, like, these guys want to kill each other. Maybe this should be a feud of the year contender next year. I don't know.
I think it definitely will be, yeah.
But that was everything coming out of that one. After that, we got Daniel Garcia and Violence Unlimited taking on the Stray Dog Army. 8 minutes, 7 seconds. They defeated Stray Dog Army. I don't have much to say to this one. It was cool seeing Daniel Garcia team up with King and Dickinson. I'm glad Dickinson's back after that injury at the San Jose.
Well,
yeah, he's back. He's back.
Unfortunately, with some taping here, this is the one downfall of tapings where you tape stuff before pay-per-view. And so, yeah, Dickinson, obviously, he's still hurt, but this was taped before he was hurt.
Nah, he's healed. And also, let's be clear, it's not the one downfall of taping. There's lots of downfalls.
There's lots of downfalls, but that's one of them. But fun match here. Daniel Garcia looked good, and also this was a continuation of probably what was going to happen at Battle in the Valley, but ended early, so.
Pretty much, yeah. And then the main event, we had the Philadelphia Street Fight. Suzuki-gun team of Lance Archer and Minoru Suzuki. They defeated Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. 14 minutes, 28 seconds. We got the pre-show package, courtesy of AEW, footage. And they kind of just told the story that's kind of spanned between the two companies and these two groups. I thought the match was good, but not great. But it was fun. It was like completely different than anything we're used to getting in New Japan, really.
Right.
And the crowd seemed to like it a lot. But there was a lot of weird sloppiness in this match. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, like it wasn't definitely not like a match of the year or anything. But yeah, this was a fun kind of plunder brawl. There was some kind of sloppy moments, some pauses in the action a little bit sometimes. But overall, it's a really fun matchup. Crowd was really into it. They were doing crazy stuff, hitting each other with kendo sticks and stop signs and all kinds of stuff. We had Tiger Tori back on the call again for this main event, which was hilarious. He was like, "Oh, Lance Archer. Last time I saw him was Japan. He's much bigger now." And so it's like him just throwing in like his random comments throughout.
I'm all about it. I liked it. There was one point, though, where they brawled to the outside, and, I figured that the people in the audience could see what was going on, right?
Yeah.
And then I think it was Jon Moxley. I can't recall, but someone grabbed a cinder block and threw it at their opponent and missed. And right at the moment that they missed, the whole crowd started booing.
Yeah, I think they hit the feet or something.
Right, but I didn't know that at first. I'm like, did they boo because he used a cinder block and they thought that was dirty, or did they boo because he missed this guy and they wanted him to literally violence. Kill someone? I was like, this Philly crowd, man, they're blood hungry. And then they're like, and then I heard the chanting and I was like, oh, they can't see. The camera feed literally cut out on people. So that was one cool thing, is even if someone was there live, they wouldn't have been able to see this until it actually aired. They missed a good portion of some of the exciting stuff that was going on the outside of the building.
Yeah, it gives you a reason to watch back.
Yeah, but the guy that really stood out here wasn't so much Jon Moxley. It was Eddie Kingston's first time, to my knowledge. I could be wrong, but especially recently with New Japan, crowd was really, really, really into Eddie Kingston. If you watch AEW, that's no surprise. But they seem to be way more into Kingston than they were Jon Moxley. And a lot of the story of why they lost in the post-match, it all kind of revolved around Eddie.
Yeah, they got the pin on Eddie, and also, again, another bad thing with taping, and especially Archer probably not realizing when this would air. He's talking all this shit to Kingston about the Eliminator match, which we were live for, which was a month ago now.
It was so long ago, and so I was watching this with my girlfriend, and she's like, "Why are you just now watching this?" And I was like, "It just aired. It's a tape show," and that's someone. I don't know who, but someone from New Japan has to get a handle on this stuff and let guys know what they can and can't say as far as the story goes, as far as sustaining a semblance of continuity between these shows and everything, because that pulls you right out when you're like, wait a second, wait, what?
Yeah, you're challenging him. What? Didn't that already happen? So.
Yeah, we were there, and you fell on your dome, and we haven't seen you since. Which I think Archer might really be hurt.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that was a scary moment, but it did happen. But overall, I mean, this was cool too, because Jon Moxley obviously is away in rehab and isn't wrestling actively. But this is a match that hadn't aired, and the whole open door, nature of it as well. So, fun match, pretty cool. Kingston Suzuki was awesome. I'd like to see them wrestle.
Yeah, definitely. So then coming up next Saturday, we have the first night of the Detonation Tour. So Saturday, December 4th, and we have the main event of Josh Barnett and Alex Coughlin for the Open Challenge Series. So Josh Barnett's first New Japan match in quite some time. So that should be interesting. Also, Leo Rush and Adrian Kress will team up to take on Bateman and Mysterioso. We will have the New Japan debut of Jonah as he takes on Lucas Riley. And then in our opener, we'll have the Switchblade, Jay White, and Hikuleo taking on Alex Zane and Yuya Uemura.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see Jonah compete for the first time. I'm not familiar with Lucas Riley. Barnett Coughlin, that's going to rule. Especially, it's a good opponent for both guys because, you know, while Alex Coughlin is obviously benefiting from facing someone, you know, with a different style and everything like the 7-match series with Josh Barnett. This is Josh Barnett's first time back into a New Japan ring in, I couldn't even tell you, maybe a decade, maybe, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, not to say that he couldn't go out there and wrestle with a top guy like, say, Jay White or something like that, but he's not really accustomed to wrestling that style of wrestling right now. But Alex Coughlin is, and they've trained together extensively over the past years or a couple of years. So, I mean, the idea that they would I think that he's a good reintroduction opponent for Josh Barnett if, hypothetically, Josh Barnett continues to wrestle for New Japan in some capacity.
Yeah, definitely.
And the match sounds awesome, so I can't wait to see that.
We got some more matches announced for the Nemesis TV tapings that will be happening on Thursday, December 9th. So it's going to be headlined with Switchblade Jay White versus the Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels. It'll be David Finlay versus Jonah, Alex Zane versus Ario Davari, Brody King versus Dave Dutra, Carl Fredericks and Kevin Knight versus Bateman and Mysterioso, TJP versus DKC, Eddie Kingston will be taking on Gabriel Kidd. Alex Coughlin will be taking on J.R. Kratos. Royce Isaacs will be taking on Lucas Riley. Juice Robinson will be taking on Bad Dude Tito. And then Clark Connors and Jordan Clearwater will be taking on Chris Bay and Hikuleo of the Bullet Club.
Man, those Regal twins pissed someone off.
What happened to those guys?
I don't know. They probably shook the wrong hand or, you know, didn't look someone in the eye or
they ate Tom Lawler's steak.
They ate someone's catering. Something like that. I don't know, man. It's weird. This is a pretty cool series of tapings though. I mean, I don't know how it's all going to fit into, we can see some of it, how it's going to fit into the storylines they're going, but some of it I'm not so sure, but a lot of new guys I'm excited to see. Bad Dude Tito, he's really good. Obviously Christopher Daniels coming back and working against Jay White. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I think
there's
Kingston and Gabriel Kidd should be a fun one.
Oh, that one's going to be great, yeah. Oh, one thing I did want to point out on this episode, so we forgot to mention, they aired the promo of Gabe Kidd calling out Jonathan Gresham. And I will say a couple things. Number one, Jonathan Gresham, I can't say for sure that I think he's a bad promo. I think you've seen more of his work in ROH than me, but is he a bad promo? Because he seemed like a pretty bad promo during this interaction.
He's been fine. I feel like Lethal did most of the talking for the Foundation than he did.
Man, I really didn't like what. So in the beginning, he tried to do this jab to Gabe Kidd. He's like, I really don't know who you are. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being dead honest. And maybe he was, but why would you say that?
Yeah.
Why would you ever say? And then he tried to put him over by walking it back. And I'm like, why would your character walk it back? None of this, I guess it's authentic, but it just doesn't get me that excited to watch you guys wrestle. And it's, if you took time to actually cut the promo, and in the middle of a show of New Japan, that should be a big deal. And I'm not saying he intended to, but he kind of shit on the dude, you know?
Yeah, I also didn't really feel like he was cutting a promo. I feel like he just came out there and was just talking.
Right, but not not like talking like the way like CM Punk talks. Like he's like talking the way you and me talk. Like
right. Look, I don't know you, but yeah, I guess I'll wrestle you.
I don't know. I wrestle another guy who's good. You're his training partner, so I can only assume you're good. So I'd like to wrestle you. And then he did that right after Gabe Kidd, like, talked all this junk about how he could never beat a British wrestler. He needs to go watch more Steve Gray tapes, right? And that's like a big put down for people on the inside. And then he's like, I don't even know who you are. I'm like, okay, Kazuchika Okada. Okay, guy that's not even signed to this company. You've done a couple Super Juniors tours. Like, I like Jonathan Gresham. I think he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. Literally, I think he's, when it comes to pure technical wrestling, I think he's like one of the 4 guys I would list as the best pure like technical guys out there today. But damn, that sucked. and then you know, we've been hearing all this everything about you know, the sensitive nature of Gabe Kidd's like whole speech and everything. They cut it all out. They cut almost everything about, you know, the mental health, the suicide and everything like that. And they pretty much just kept like a very small tidbit. And you could see audibly where the cut happens. Like it just, I don't know. It was weird.
It was weird. And I know they put it out on their YouTube channel, but why not just put it on the Strong episode too? I don't know. Yeah.
Do you think that the viewers at home watching Strong on, you know, weekly television were like, oh God, I can't handle this.
I'm appalled.
I'm appalled. The people like the diehards who are streaming it on their laptops. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like it's network television.
Right.
Oh man. Anyways.
Well, that'll take us into some other news stories here. So Strong will be having their first taping of 2022 in Seattle, Washington at Washington Hall on Saturday, January 15th. The event will be branded the New Beginning USA. The company has announced that, no matches have been announced, but some names have been announced. So Switchblade, Jay White, Tom Lawler, Jonah, ELP, Fred Rosser, and Gabriel Kidd have all been announced as appearing for the show. Tickets went on sale yesterday, Monday, November 29th, and the ticket prices are ranging from $30 for standing room to $150 for VIP seating.
You know what else went on sale yesterday?
What?
Spider-Man tickets.
Yeah. Did you get any?
I got mine, of course. The
nice.
AMC A-list gimmick.
That's all right. You got the A-list gimmick, yeah. New Japan is coming to Comic-Con this winter, bringing the best wrestling in the world to Comic-Con for the first time. Switchblade, Jay White, Fred Rosser, and Clark Connors will be joining for a panel discussion as well as individual meet and greets over the weekend. Then Jeff Cobb and TJP, they represented New Japan and the United Empire this past weekend in CMLL. They headlined the 11/19 Arena Mexico show by beating Volador Jr. and Atlantis Jr. They took out Volador's knee, leaving Atlantis Jr. by himself, and Cobb pinned him. And then TJP challenged Volador to a match for the NWA Historic Welterweight title on November 26th, and Volador accepted the challenge for that. Not sure if what the results are, but I'm assuming that Volador probably retained.
Did we talk about Will Ospreay headbutting a fan last week?
We did mention it, yeah.
Yeah, I just want everyone to remember.
Never forget.
But we got a couple questions and then the recommend match of the week, and we're going to get out of here.
Yeah, so Dan Coffin, the Ghoul, he asks, who would you most like to bring on the show for your next big exclusive interview?
So I answered this on Twitter with a GIF, and I sent him one of those, those reenactments from Dark Side of the Ring, one of the reenactments of Inoki walking out to the ring. I want to bring the ace on the show, the real ace, the true ace.
Inoki.
Mr. New Japan himself.
Let's see. I mean,
no, but for real, I don't know. Like, is there anyone that you're just dying to talk to?
Yeah, I mean, also, Kevin Kelly is somebody that we've been trying to get on the show. That would be cool.
I would love to have Kevin Kelly on here just because he's a really, really good interview. And I always find it interesting to hear what he has to say. And yeah, I'd probably agree with you there. Cause I mean, there are guys like if we were being wild and we were like Jay White or Will Ospreay, you know, or Jeff Cobb, but you know, they're all heel characters. I mean, I don't know, like how much I've seen some of the interviews that like those guys give, especially like Jay. It's all kayfabe, you know. They're working the media.
Well, I want to get Ospreay on here, sell the beef between you guys, you know.
Nah, bro. If I see him, it's on site, bro.
Get it out in the open. Like, do you remember what happened in New Orleans, Will? Like, you need to apologize.
Nah, that would be uncomfortable. Never doing that. But yeah, I guess my answer probably would be Kevin Kelly, I think.
Yeah. Dan also asked, did you make it through No Nut November like Hanare?
No, that's not good for you.
Oh, man. Moving on. Hawaiian Punch BV. He says, have you seen Yoshisuji's shooting star press? Will he even make it back from excursion without seriously hurting himself?
I did see it. It's horrifying. I think we put it on, we retweeted it from someone else sharing it on Twitter. And it was cool that he did it, but it's scary. Like, I'm like, oh, God, this guy could really hurt
it's like Brock doing shooting star at WrestleMania 19. Like, it's scary looking. He can perfect it, cool, but that should probably be like a super finisher that he only busts out in like a Tokyo Dome or something. He also asked thoughts on the big boxing fights this past weekend. George Camboso Jr. versus Teofimo Lopez and Stephen Fulton versus Brandon Figueroa. What do you think of both Figueroa and Lopez being extremely classless in defeat in their post-fight interviews?
I didn't see the Fulton Figueroa fight. I did see Camboso Jr. versus Teofimo. Fight was great. You know, possible fight of the year contender, but man, those guys are both incredible. I think most people do think George won the fight, but you know, again, it was a split decision. I could see it maybe going for both guys, but yeah, Teofimo, he definitely, you know, had some words. I've seen him put out some statements even after the fight, after the post-fight interviews and stuff, and he thought he only lost like 2 of the rounds, which is kind of crazy. So, you know, I don't know, man. Some guys are not good at taking losses and they're kind of just not self-aware. They're kind of disconnected from reality, but yeah, I don't know. This is an interesting thing for the lightweight division though, going forward.
He also asks, what are your favorite Jose Aldo moments since he is fighting this weekend?
Oh man. Quite a few. I mean, when he did the flying knockout in WEC in like 9 seconds, I forget who that was against. The first pay-per-view fight with Uriah Faber, where he like destroyed Uriah's leg on a level I've never seen before or since. It was probably one of the ugly. I don't even know how that guy didn't lose a leg, literally. When he knocked out Chad Mendes in Brazil and then jumped in the crowd and like was celebrating with everybody. The fight with Kenny Florian, who is one of my favorite fighters of all time, and
Ken Flo.
Aldo. Yeah, I love Ken Flo. Yeah, too many to list, man. I love Jose Aldo. I always have, and you know, he got knocked out by McGregor though. That's bro. Since we're on the subject, that for me, that's one of the most shocking things ever because like. I talked so much junk because I literally believed that Aldo. I mean, at this point, Aldo is one of the greatest fighters in the history of ever. And yeah, Conor was great, but like I thought he was going to get exposed. I really, really thought he was going to get exposed against Aldo. And I'm watching the fight, and I was in Philly with a bunch of my roommates. I was working out there, and we'd order this fight. We had a huge party. There's so many people there, and I was being so vocal. And the fight starts, and I'm watching Aldo, and I see Aldo throw a right hand, and it land, and then I just see him on the ground, and then he's getting hammer fisted, and the fight's over. And I couldn't even comprehend what happened. I thought it was like a fix or something. Like, I was like, what?
It's a work.
Yeah, what the fuck happened? And then they show the replay, and I was like, while I was watching him land his punch, he was getting hit first, harder, cleaner, earlier, and I just never saw it, just like he never saw it. So I felt like I got knocked out with him, and I was pretty embarrassed. Like, it's like one of the worst moments for me as a fight fan, like, ever. But yeah, I love Jose Aldo, Jose, whatever. I'll always call him Jose because I'm in America, so whatever.
Is it Jose?
It's Jose, yeah.
Next question's here from Dom Homie 101. Thoughts on Jay White versus Chris Daniels matchup?
Should be good. I mean, I'm not like, oh my God, this is a dream match, you know? But you know, it's exciting. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I've always been a fan of the Fallen Angel. Also, he's definitely in the latter stages of his career. There was a cool video on BTE a few weeks ago, kind of like him, kind of at the crossroads, like what's he gonna do, and he did a little stint in Impact as well. So I'm interested to see like if it's a one shot or if he'll be back in the future and how this plays into his wrestling career in general.
Do you think it's a little mini retirement tour?
It could be, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't know.
Then he says, here's a joke for you guys. What do NXT and Tefemo Lopez have in common? Both were going to take over, but both got taken over. LOL.
Yeah, I guess so.
Then he asks, any thoughts on NXT 2.0?
No.
I've only watched part of the first one. It's whack. Braun Breaker's cool. The Diamond Mine's cool. And that's about it.
I don't even know who you're talking about. I don't watch that.
He says, time for some fight talk, and it's fight week ×2. Thoughts on George Campazzo Jr. upsetting Tefemo Lopez Jr., and thoughts on the performance of Tefemo's corner, thoughts on the lack of backlash for Tefemo's performance, post-fight action and post-fight excuses, and what should be next for both fighters.
Yeah, I kind of spoke about the post-fight stuff. I don't think Teofimo's corner was equipped to help him out there. I know some of his family is in that corner, if I'm not mistaken, but they didn't seem to be able to give him the right direction or answer for, or even present him a clear picture of what was really actually happening. And that might be part of the reason why he felt like he was so far up when maybe he wasn't. And, you got to have people in the corner that can be real with you and tell you exactly what's going on. Even if, they think you were winning, it's very oftentimes in boxing and in fighting, it's better to err on the side of caution and, make sure that you don't leave it to the hands of the judges. But if you have to, let them know like, yo, it's a close fight. Like, you really got to put in the work or whatever. And he was, but I don't think they were able to help him to adjust or make the proper adjustments to win that fight. So yeah, as far as what's next, I wouldn't be surprised if they had a rematch possibly because, George Kambosos, he's becoming a star, but Teofimo like just kind of got made himself by, from when he beat Loma. Neither one of them are big stars. So I don't know. The lightweight division's got a lot of guys right now. So, I mean, there's a lot they could do, but I wouldn't be surprised if they rematch.
We also have thoughts on the upcoming bouts of Devin the Dream Haney versus Jojo Diaz and Gervonta Tank Davis versus Isaac Pitbull Cruz.
Good fights, good challengers. I'm assuming Gervonta Davis and Devin Haney pull it out.
Nice.
That's pretty much it.
Well, now it's time for the recommended match of the week. So last week, you recommended the big Noah versus New Japan matchup with Ghost Shiozaki, Katsuhiko Nakajima, Masa Kitamiya, and Maibach Taniguchi versus Tenzan, Shibata, Nakanishi, and Yuji Nagata from the G1 of 2016. And man, this was a awesome multi-man tag here. Dude, Shibata and Go were just hitting each other so freaking hard. They were going so hard. Shibata's corner drop kicks, like he drop kicked like all 4 guys in the corner, and he just drilled those guys with the corner drop kicks. And then the freaking headbutt. Oh my gosh, you had told me about this before I watched it, but when I saw it for my own eyes and heard it with my own ears, this was the loudest freaking thud I've ever heard in wrestling. I literally jumped up screaming when I heard the headbutt. I was like, oh my God, like why? And immediately just busted open, cracked open, and yeah, just such a crazy, wild, hate-filled matchup here. Tons of strong style action here, and the Noah team got the win. Kind of surprising there, and yeah, it's just kind of crazy, fun matchup here.
Yeah, there was a lot that was kind of going into this. I mean, not all the guys from the Noah team had been featured on undercard tag matches throughout that G1 tour. So, you know, the kind of like Noah New Japan rivalry that was sort of emerging was, you know, very much showcased all throughout the tour. But that was the finals of the tour. So that was the big blow off match for at least that portion of, you know, the G1. And dude, they really laid it out there. I mean, you know, I call this easily a 4-star match. I think Dave went 4 1/4, but it's a 10-minute match, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, if you had a match that was kind of going on all cylinders the way that this was for a longer period of time, you could literally be talking about like an 8-man tag match of the year contender. Like that's how good the action was. And the crowd is so involved in this, and not just like in a way where they're they're hot for everybody. They're actively booing the Noah scum trash.
Yeah, anytime Noah got an advantage, boo.
Yeah, it's so good. If you haven't seen this, it doesn't take a lot of time, but like the match itself, I mean, Shibata is really the star here. Go Shiozaki is also, he leaves a lasting impression, but you know, at this point Nakajima was kind of like the guy that they're trying to make a star. He's the one who picks up the win. But everyone worked really hard in the match. Even the New Japan dads at this point, they're not quite as broken down as they are now. And so they're putting in the extra effort and really doing a lot more athletically than they normally would. The crowd's eating it up. It's just hard hitting, very fast paced, you know, electric atmosphere. It's just really cool. It's a great match. My favorite part is, like you mentioned, the headbutt. And after the headbutt, Nagata walks over to Shibata, and the camera pans away, but you can hear him say, "Are you okay?" And he says it in English, which is like not a good thing. And then the post match, like Shibata goes crazy, and those guys go crazy. Yeah, and, like it is awesome.
Dude, it's just heat filled and it's great stuff.
Well, you know, I know you're going to recommend a match to me. I already saw what it is, but you know, this feud did continue on for a bit, and it spilled over to Noah as well. There's a really awesome Go Shiozaki Katsuyori Shibata match from Noah that kind of like was the payoff to this little thing here.
Nice. Well, yeah, my recommended match of the week comes from the same year, same tour. It's August 13th, 2016 from the G1. Katsuhiko Nakajima versus Big Mike Michael Elgin. Dave went 4.5 on this match.
This match rules. Yeah. That's my favorite time of Elgin's period with New Japan. It was his initial G1 run because he just rocked so hard in that G1. And then, yeah, the stuff with Noah and with Nakajima, this is a really good match. I haven't rewatched it since, so I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. Well, that's going to wrap everything up for us here this week. Make sure you go out and vote in our year-end awards and share that. Next week, we'll be back to review more Best of the Super Junior and World Tag League action. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keepin It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. The network is at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan on Facebook. We're facebook.com/Social Suplex. You can find us in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we are at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences Podcast with Caleb and Maserati. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. And the AEW Match Guide Podcast, hosted by Sir Sam. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
Almost 90% of women have cellulite. And guess what? It's not their fault. We don't choose cellulite, but we can choose a different way to treat it. Meet Quo, collagenase Clostridium histolyticum, AAES, the first and only FDA-approved prescription injectable for moderate to severe cellulite in the buttocks of adult women. This non-surgical treatment is injected by an aesthetic specialist in 10 minutes or less. Individual results may vary. Do not receive if you are allergic to any collagenase or ingredients in Quo, or have an infection at the treatment site. May cause serious side effects, allergic reactions including anaphylaxis, and injection site bruising. Seek medical help right away for any signs of allergic hypersensitivity. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions, if you have a bleeding condition, or take medicine that prevents clotting. Most common side effects include bruising, pain, hardness, itching, redness, discoloration, swelling, and warmth at the injection site. Ask your doctor about all possible side effects and for product information. If you're ready to get to the bottom of your cellulite, learn more and find a specialist at Quo.com.